This is the greatest moment in my life. Hello.
Hello.
So, for those who wondering, Sar was peeping out of his curtains like a nosy old neighbour.
There's a noise behind me. In the bedroom, there's a noise behind me. And it's
Ghost.
it's going over and over again. I'm like, what is that?
It's Sharon downstairs practicing a drum solo.
Ah, yeah, maybe. No,
Next, she's going to go.
It's quite creepy. Hang on. No, stop now.
This is quality programming, folks.
Mate, that was really scary. I didn't like that.
Cam Griffin in the chat. Is it 7?
Yeah, out the window. Yeah. It sounded like it might be a snake or something for a minute.
Do you get snakes in deep dark Gloucester?
Yeah, we have one at the end of our garden.
You've got a pet snake?
No, not recently. We had a snake at the end of our garden. Big fat creatures as well. Really big one.
That's 6 foot with no pants and a mac on.
Yeah, exactly. One of our cats tried to bring what looked like a snake, but might have ended up being like a slow worm in once. That wasn't a pleasant afternoon.
This is the wrestling show, folks.
Mate. Yeah, no, honestly, that was horrible. I don't know what that was. I don't know if it's like an old kid's toy twicking over or something, but
it could be a gas leak.
Brilliant. Thanks for that.
I mean, it's not my fault. I didn't do it.
No, I'm not saying you did it, but out of all the stuff it could be, you're like, oh, yeah, you could be dying.
You can't die from gas leaks.
You can. You can't. You're not supposed to breathe in gas, are you?
I don't know. Probably not, actually.
No,
and we started this bloody show.
Well, we better add in case there's going to be an explosion behind me, I suppose. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever and whenever you may be listening or watching from. This is Chain Wrestling Live with Mags and Si. I am Si, and with me, as always, is the No Way Out to my Lager Light, the Cactus Jack to my butt crack. I need a new belt. A podcast intellect is as sharp as Mick Foley's barbed wire. Made of rubber and pretty dim, to be honest. The Podfather himself, Lord Mags. How are we doing, sir?
I was doing well until I saw your actual crack while she was leaning out the window, like nosing on the neighbours.
I didn't lean out the window. I was just trying to see what it was, because it sounded like it was coming not from this side of the curtains. You know?
You may have a snake has gotten into your boots. There. There's a snake in me boots. Oh, sorry, there is a snake in me boots.
Who have we got in the chat, Magsy? Let's have a quick scan through before we get on today, shall we? Because we're looking at two wrestling matches tonight, because you can't stick to the fucking rules.
Well, I mean, we don't put much time into the wrestling anyway. Unless Steve was here, then we've got to separate a full days afterwards. But we've got the usual referees.
I don't think we finished last week's show yet. It was that long.
I mean, tell them what you told me. It had to get split over 2 episodes on the audio because Steve just won't shut the fuck up, basically. Love you, Steve.
Yeah, I did the usual, edited it. It took me an extra day to get round to finishing the editing and so on. Because it was well over 3 hours, wasn't it? 3 hours, 40 minutes, something like last week's show. So
it was like an AEW pay-per-view.
It was, mate. It was just better in content. And I tried to upload it to the podcast carrier that the network uses, and it basically said, "Nah, no chance, fat man. This is far too large. We're gonna, So I had to take it back down and re-edit it again into 2 separate parts for the site to host it. It was that long a show.
So if you're listening on the audio, bonus double length episode for you.
There you go, mate.
We'll try and keep it down to about 3 hours for today, though.
Oh, mate, don't. I'm tired already.
Anyway, you asked me who was in the chat, and I went on a Steve-O style tangent. Anyway, Mags continues. We've got Connor in the chat saying, hello, you good-looking gents. I'll be in and out of the chat today. He's sick with the flu. Hope you get better soon. And Si's just been telling me about your upcoming appearance on the Doctor Who pod. So everyone needs to listen out for that, for an American view on Doctor Who. Shazza, it's Monday night. You know what that means. And Dan Griffin, a man after, I mean, I give that guy some grief, but he's a man after my own heart. Noticed the 69 straight away and did the same thing. So for a bit of context, I'm the one of the pair of us who sets up the StreamYard page. And when I was coming up with the title and it said episode 69, I did the schoolboy giggle like 69 more, and that's where we got today's title from. Me childishly laughing at 42 years of age at the number 69. So yes, I'm a child. Cam in the chat as well. Good evening to you, sir. Charlie, hello. How are you? And James, now you're in the chat, so you can actually confirm who says your Twitter handle correctly, because Sa really has been struggling with it. It's all right.
Mm-hmm.
I think it is. So anyway, welcome. And just
I got it right last week.
It does take you quite a few tries, though.
Yeah, potentially. When we get to the non-wrestling topic and read anything out from him from now on the audio version, I'm going to play that old, is it Cast song, singing about being all right? And
I'm all right.
Yeah,
yes, I'm all right.
And just cut me out butchering the name on the live version. It'd be fine.
We've got King's Pigs Bladders in the chat as well, and they're saying it depends on who's releasing their gas, whether it's toxic or not. I mean, is Sharon a heavy gas releaser?
Well, it depends what she's eating, I guess. No, I'm joking, my love.
Funnily enough, her comments next, it says long, so maybe she's just describing her gas release. Maybe. Let us know, Shah. Let us know in the chat. Connor outing me there, saying I'm a child at heart. I take offense to that, Connor. I'm not just a child at heart. I'm a child in everything apart from age. Scottish Danny in the chat as well. Hello, sir. Morte is in. Evening from Darlington. Oh, I'm so sorry for you. Being in Darlington. Jesus wept. What have you done wrong? Have you fell out with the missus?
How far has he got to move if they have an argument?
And Darlo Morte, are you feeling all right from Cam? So yeah, we've got a lot of the usual suspects in, and we massively appreciate you joining us again. Hopefully we can get you all to bed at a reasonable hour this week.
I say that, and we joke about it and so on. I loved having Steve on the last 2 weeks. It's been absolutely fantastic, and the fact that we went so long didn't bother me at all because it was so interesting. It's such a great conversation. I loved it.
Yeah, I mean, I am jesting. Steve-O is a staple of the CWF. He's an absolute star, and to have him on, I could have talked with the guy for 10 hours, and it was just so much fun. And I massively appreciate him donated his time to be on not just one but two shows. It was amazing for him to do that. So yeah, we massively appreciate him.
Yeah, and it's just a shame now that I've only got you to talk to, so I reckon we'll be wrapped up by past.
Well, okay then.
Oh, here we go. Magsy's gonna suck.
Only joking. I'm back.
Well, the wrong way round. Oh, that's better. That's better. Very quickly before we move on to our non-wrestling topic, our Hall of Fame, and all the other great stuff. My missus has just messaged me, my good lady Sharon, the number one lady of the CWF, to say that I've still been a freaking loser and not updated her status on this channel and so on, because she's normally in charge of the chat and does the moderating, and when we get people advertising pornography and other such nonsense, she used to deal with it. But I've not fixed it for her yet, Magsy, because I'm an idiot, and she's just messaged me to say still haven't sorted it out. So I want to apologize to my wife for that.
Shock horror. We just got another comment in the chat from your Anya saying exciting news. She has an interview for a hairdressing apprenticeship on Wednesday. So
awesome.
Congratulations on that. Yeah.
Good luck. Hope it goes well.
Yeah. Fingers crossed for you. I've also got a little bit of second-hand news as well.
Okay.
So people who listen to 5 Rounds will know I used to do that show with my son Carlos, and he's a practitioner in the MMA, and he's just been selected for the Great British team for the International Jiu-Jitsu Federation tournament. So at the beginning of December, he's going to a tournament in Greece.
Why?
And it's at the Acropolis, from like history and stuff.
From history and stuff.
Yeah. 75,000 seater stadium, and he'll be in a tournament to hopefully bring back some gold for GB. He's the only person from the north of England to be picked as well.
Why?
Yeah.
Oh, well, congratulations to Carlos, and congratulations to you as well, Maxie. That's fantastic news, isn't it? Well done.
I had barely anything to do with it. I mean, to be fair, he does all the hard work. I just get all the glory.
Fair enough, mate. Fair enough. Bask in that glory.
Southwick's Acropolis is served with pizza and hummus. They don't get hummus down Gloucester.
It's funny, Dan Griffin is the one in... What do you mean you don't get hummus in Gloucester, you prick? Of course you do.
You'd think that hummus would be like encroaching on the cheese market.
Oh, for goodness sake. It's funny that it's Dan Griffin mentioning that about Acropolis and so on there, because when you first said the name Acropolis, my mind went to a 1970s Doctor Who story. And I was like, is that what he's on about? No, that can't be right.
Wow. It's on the brain for you all the time, and it's just podcasts on the brain.
Mate, I recorded earlier on. I recorded 2 yesterday. I watched some Doctor Who back today with Charlie. It's great actually, because we're recording this week, Dan and I, an episode of the Doctor Who pod, and we're covering a New Who episode. And I'm watching New Who back from the beginning with Charlie. And it just so happens that the episode that we've picked, we had a random draft, and then I picked a story again at random for this one. Dan's not happy because he said it's shite, but we'll find out when we review it. But it completely, again, random draft and so on. It just so happened to coincide with where me and Charlie have got to now, weeks later, with our watch along. So I got to watch it this afternoon with Charlie. It was the way it worked out was spot on, mate.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Dan Griffin in the chat there saying it's fucking awful, but we will find out.
I'm watching one of the worst episodes of Doctor Who. I'm watching it right now. He said, not watching us. He's watching the shitty Doctor Who.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a fun episode. So listen out for that, folks, in the near future.
Yes, in a couple of weeks' time. It's going to, well, either way, it'll be funny. I didn't think it was that bad, but we'll get into it on the Doctor Who podcast. So there we go. Dan Griffin again. I think it's nearly child abuse making Charlie watch that crap. I asked her opinions. I've actually got notes of Charlie's opinions. She's still not brave enough to come on the show and speak herself, which is a shame. I'd love her to come on and
so what you should do is slyly record her.
She's in the chat, yes?
Yeah, I mean, don't listen to that bit, Charlie.
You knobhead. If I slyly recorded her and then put it on a podcast, and in any way, shape, or form she somehow found out that had happened, honestly, my name would be dirt. I'd never ever stand an opportunity of talking with her about Doctor Who again. I'd love to sit her down, just 5 minutes to sit down and have her thoughts and stuff. But there we go. Okay.
She's not, so I got away with it.
There you go. Everyone, don't tell her in the chat. Shh. Right, Magsy. Should we chuck away some crap in the Hall of Fame, mate, and get rid of some awful, awful wrestling before we get rid of some awful, awful non-wrestling things later?
Let's do it. I've got to find the video now. Oh, there it is. The Hall of
Lame indeed. Lame indeed. Magsy, what you got for us, my friend?
So last week's and the weeks before's bumper episodes where we spent a hell of a lot of time not talking about any wrestling whatsoever, kind of it made me think of a post or a group of posts that our friends at PW Musings, Pro Wrestling Musings, used to put up quite regularly, where they would break down the amount of wrestling we got on each TV show. So how many minutes we got on Raw, how many minutes per hour we got on Dynamite, just for comparisons. So that then kind of led me down a little bit of a a squared circle Reddit rabbit hole because I wanted to see what was the worst amount of the least amount of wrestling that you would get per hour, and I found it, and Jesus wept. So Nitro from March the 8th, 1999.
Yes.
Now, bear in mind that this was around WrestleMania season. So on the other side, they were building up to The Rock versus Austin.
What was that? 1990, that 15? Is that right?
Yes, WrestleMania
okay.
15. So they were building up to two of the biggest stars clashing together at WrestleMania. So WCW had to put something on to kind of counteract that. They were also leading into, I think it was Uncensored. This was like the go-home show for Uncensored. So the first hour of Nitro always kind of went unopposed because Nitro was 3 hours, Raw was 2 hours. So let's just look through that first unopposed hour of Monday Nitro. So they open with a little bit of a vignette of a cage that is being built for the main event of the match on Sunday, which for the Uncensored pay-per-view, which I think was Ric Flair versus Hogan. Well, I know it was that because it mentions it multiple times. And then we're thrown to a highlight of a Thunder clip where Arn Anderson and Ric Flair are having a sit-down chat in the locker room about Ric Flair's issues with David Flair, who had just essentially turned on his dad, joined the NWO Wolfpack. He was having relations with Tori Wilson. Arn Anderson was basically saying, Ric Flair, you're a bad dad. All you care about is wrestling and being the 14 times world champion. And Ric Flair was, fuck you, Arn. He's a big boy. He's milked me for long enough. If he wants to go off with that Jezebel, then he makes his own decisions. That goes on for like about 10 minutes. So that's a highlight. Then we get a clip of the Nitro girls. They're in Rhode Island for some sort of party. I think it's advertising a spring break coming up. Then we go to another party in Rhode Island, which is at a university. There's some dude there, I don't know who he's called Richie something. I've never seen him before. And they're talking about a guy who's won a trip to this spring break. That goes on for a good 5 minutes. We then we get a backstage kind of interview with a Nitro girl called AC Jazz. And we see how she lives her life outside the wrestling bubble. 5 minutes. Yeah, so this is all kind of like building into like vignettes, and you're thinking the wrestling's going to start soon. Then we get a paid announcement from the NWO, and it's on about Hulk Hogan, and he's talking about how everybody hates him, and he's only in wrestling for the money and for the stroke. He then talks about David Flair joining the NWO, and then he kind of turns the table saying people might hate him, but they should hate Ric Flair because he turned on his family and is only obsessed with the power of being a world champion and of being president of WCW. That, again, is another long-winded Hogan promo, again, around about 5 minutes. So we're about 20 minutes in so far. No wrestling whatsoever. We then go back to the party, this Nitro party, where Conan's there, and we get a Conan rap video, which is fun for all the kids. Then we get another NWO announcement. This is where we see Hogan and Nash having a little chat. They're talking about Ric Flair and David Flair. They start slagging Ric Flair off for stealing the Nature Boy gimmick from Buddy Landell, stuff like that, for 5 or so minutes. And then we start to get to some wrestling. Oh, no, we don't. We get promo for Lex Luger and how strong and powerful he is. We then get Scott Steiner and Buff Bagwell driving like maniacs in a stretch NWO Hummer limo. They are pulled over by the police, and instead of getting tickets, the police basically give them jobs and say, you go and give other people tickets and we'll let you off. So they stop. We get a montage of them stopping people doing crimes such as littering, smoking indoors, just absolutely ridiculous, stupid things, whilst wearing a sheriff's badge akin to Stone Cold the Sheriff. Back to the party now, and we've got Billy Kidman there now. He's there with Conan, and he's not so much interested in partying, more promoting that he thinks that Rey Mysterio is going to be able to beat Kevin Nash. We'll see. Then we go back to, and that's where Kevin Nash, I think Kevin Nash had took the mask off Rey Mysterio and basically lit a fire under him. Then we go to a shooting range. Hogan and Nash are there to talk to Tori Wilson, who is there unloading the clips of a pistol.
Of course.
Like you do.
Yeah.
And they want her to kind of get her claws further into David Flair. So they're suggesting that maybe she should sleep with him. But they'll talk about it more at dinner. So they arrange to meet up later on because Tori Wilson still has 2 or 3 hours of shooting to do. So that lasts another 5 or 12 minutes. So we're about 45 minutes into the show now, give or take. And then we go straight to the dinner. So all that time has passed. We see Tori Wilson, Kevin Nash, and Hulk Hogan still discussing how they're going to destroy Ric Flair, still how they're going to use David Flair. And they introduce this girl called Denise, who her last name is Denise Robinson. So we get lots of kind of the graduate jokes, live a hardy ha ha. Are you trying to seduce me, Mrs. Robinson? Apparently, she's going to sleep with David Flair because they've offered her 20 grand to do so. And that's when we finally get the intro music for Nitro, the intro video. And you think, here we go. Here comes the wrestling. We're on it now. And then we go to Mean Gene Okerlund in the middle of the ring, calling out Goldberg for an interview segment. Jesus Christ. Out comes not Goldberg, David Flair and Tori Wilson. So we're still an hour and 10 minutes into this show, and it's still all about Ric Flair, Hulk Hogan, David Flair, and Tori Wilson. He starts to say to Goldberg, he's not to Gene, he's not leaving this ring, he's not leaving the arena until he can face his dad man to man. Goldberg then comes out and says to David, I respect your dad for what he's done for the business, but I don't particularly respect you, but I won't beat you up because of who your dad is, but you need to start learning to respect this business, respect your dad, and respect me because this is my interview time, not yours. So David Flair does the only sensible thing that a 19-year-old kid could do. He starts poking Goldberg in the chest.
Oh, this is going to end well.
Yeah, so Goldberg grabs him by the throat and threatens to strangle him. Ric Flair, in the meantime, has arrived at the arena in his limo, sees it on a screen backstage, sprints down to the ring and attacks Goldberg, gives him a chop. Goldberg absolutely no-sells it. Doesn't attack Flair back, though, because of the respect that he's got for him.
Of course.
David Flair hardtails it out of there, and now it leads to Ric Flair and Goldberg screaming at each other, and Goldberg essentially challenging Ric Flair to a match to headline that episode of Nitro. So about an hour 15 into it now, and we finally get our first match of the show. And it's Raven versus Hack, aka Sandman.
Sandman, yeah.
Which lasts about 3 minutes before Bam Bam Bigelow inserts himself into the match, and it ends up being a three-way. So this week's entrance for me is the March 8th, 1999 episode of Nitro, where in the first hour of wrestling, we got no wrestling.
Jeez, man. I remember that as well. It is so bad. And people wonder, again, it's so easy to turn around and go, Kevin Nash killed WCW. Yes, he played a big part. It's easy to turn around and say, oh, the Time Warner AOL merger killed There's lots of different things that factored into WCW dying. Shit like this plays a part as well.
I mean, when I was reading the Reddit post about it, I didn't actually believe it. I thought this was kind of wrestling fans embellishing. So I watched it back. And it is entirely true. I mean, luckily with the network, it cuts out all the advertising. But Jesus wept. It was a slog to get through.
Yeah, 100%. Sharon in the chat there, that's spot on. Kevin Nash needs to go and work for the days of our lives. Yeah, brilliant storytelling for them.
But then look at that. We get shit as well. Learn the blueprint for chain wrestling, not having wrestling in the first hour. Rude.
Inspired
Absolutely
by
rude.
Big Daddy Cool, mate. That's why I'm going to put that spin on that. I'm going to put a spin on that. Very, very worthy entrant, Magsy. Very worthy entrant. And I'm actually going to take a leaf at your book this week, because you've put whole shows in the past for being awful, and you put best part of half a show or a third of a show in there for being awful.
Yep.
And that's kind of what I'm doing as well. I've got a whole pay-per-view I would like to put in, but it's kind of the opposite reason to you. We get wrestling on
There's
this.
There's just too much wrestling on a wrestling show. It's just all wrestling. The cheeky. Oh, how dare they?
We get wrestling on this wrestling show, but sadly it's shite. So we don't really want that wrestling. But there we go. And Scottish Danny in the chat, I bet this is probably going to be right in his wheelhouse as well. He'll know a bit about this, I imagine. I'd like to go back to December the 3rd, 2006. Now, does that date ring a bell with anybody without Googling it, without looking it up? Okay.
December to dismember.
It 100% is December to dismember.
Oh, I got a horrid shiver.
I was looking initially at a couple of different things. I wanted to look at terrible titles, as in not the design of the belt, but actually wrestling championships that were just a waste of time. I thought that could be quite an interesting entry. And the more I looked at different options for this week's Hall of Fame, the more this show kept popping up for various reasons. And I was like, well, it keeps raising itself to me. So let's have a look, shall we? So I'll run through the card for you. The incredibly unlucky 4,800 people who guested the Augusta, Georgia arena. The James Brown Arena in Augusta, Georgia on that fateful December evening in 2006 were first of all treated to a dark match where Stevie Richards defeated Rene Dupree, main event anywhere in the world, obviously. The show opened and didn't actually get off to too bad a start, because the show opened with the Hardys defeating the team of Mercury and Nitro with Melina, so M&M. That went 20 odd minutes, and that's not too bad. It's okay, because all four of those guys have got a bit about them.
Yep.
This was followed up by Balls Mahoney in a Strikers Rules match against Matt Striker for over 7 minutes of your time there. So, a productive few moments had by all. We had a tag team match after this with Elijah Burke and Sylvester Turkai defeating at the FBI, Tony Marmaluke and Little Guido. They, FBI and ECW, the original ECW, they were okay. They could go, but this was only given 6 minutes because apparently a Strikers Rules match featuring Matt Striker is far more important. This is followed up by Daivari, who has the Great Khali at ringside, because why the hell not? And he defeats Tommy Dreamer in a match again that goes just over 7 minutes. Now that just screams Velocity or Sunday Night Heat, doesn't it? Not pay-per-view, not paying 25 quid or whatever it may well be to watch. We then get another match that goes nearly 8 minutes, and that is the tag team contest of Ariel and Kevin Thorne, who went on to be Mordecai, already entered into the Hall of Fame. And they defeated the incredibly high-talented combination of Mike Knox and Kelly Kelly. What a match that must have been. 47 stars by Mr. Meltzer, no doubt.
That was when Kelly Kelly was in she was a naturist, weren't she? She
Exhibitionist.
Exhibitionist. She wanted to be naked all the time.
Yeah, good luck to her. Also, Kelly Kelly's real name is Barbie.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's her real name, why couldn't they just use that? That's a better name than Kelly Kelly, surely.
Because surely Barbie is already trademarked.
Yeah, but I think it's spelled.
Mattel.
Yeah, but I think it's spelled different, and it's actually her biologically given name, not biologically given name.
Biological.
Yeah. She came out of it written down the side of her face. Look at that birthmark. It says
like Holiday Rock. It's just right through her.
How would you know that? You got to slice her open to see that, surely. She falls over as a kid in the playground, grazes her forehead, and there's just an image of a pink doll or something. You know, that could explain it, maybe.
It could.
But that takes us to our main event of the evening. We have an elimination chamber match, an extreme elimination chamber match, Magsy, because all the other ones with the metal and the grid work and the glass, they weren't extreme enough.
No.
And we have some pretty good talent here, to be fair. Bobby Lashley on his day can work. The Big Show at certain points in his career, not here, don't get me wrong, but at certain points in his career has put on some half decent matches. Rob Van Dam, of course, is always, great to watch. But we also have Hardcore Holly and Test. Those real sort of stand-up, the pillars of the proper ECW from back in the day. Test and Hardcore Holly. Bobby Lashley goes on to win the ECW World Title in just shy of 25 minutes in probably the most boring elimination chamber match I've ever seen in my life. This was the last pay-per-view WWE promoted under their rebooted ECW efforts. It ended up with Paul Heyman effectively leaving the company and, at least losing a lot of his booking power because he was blamed for a lot of the crap that went on in this show, even though this is not what he wanted to promote. Yes, 4,800 people were there and 90,000 pay-per-view buys across the world. That's not just in the States. That's 90,000 in the world. Yes. So my entrant to the Chain Wrestling Hall of Fame this week is the ECW WWE promoted December to Dismember pay-per-view 2006.
I mean, we could easily just put WWE ECW in on its own because it was just all a bad attempt at like rekindling the passion of ECW. But yeah, that pay-per-view was dog shit.
It was terrible. It was terrible. They had CM Punk sat there, and apparently Paul Heyman's initial idea was that Punk was going to enter the chamber first and go through everybody one by one, win the title. Yeah. And I'm thinking at least that would have given you a story.
Yeah,
but no,
exactly.
No, awful pay-per-view, and it killed their ECW reboot, didn't it? And you kind of got the NXT efforts from that afterwards. It took the sci-fi time slot on television a little while later, but yeah, not a good look. But those are your entrants into the Chain Wrestling Hall of Fame this week. We have the Wrestling Show of No Wrestling from the March the 8th, 1999 WCW Monday Nitro, and ECW WWE's December to Dismember 2006. Both equally shite for different reasons.
Well, yeah, I mean, one had all the wrestling chucked at you, but it was dog shit, and one had none of the wrestling chucked at you, and it was dog shit. So
yeah, there we go.
You can't win.
Exactly, mate. Exactly. Let's have a quick flick through the chat, Magsy, before we get onto our non-wrestling topic and talk a little bit more shit, I suppose.
Scottish Danny saying Arn told no lies. Yeah, Arn was brutal with Ric Flair. He was proper giving him shit. Yeah. So when you get to watch that, it'll be interesting to hear what you guys actually thought of the episode. Dan Griffin saying this was 6 weeks into Kevin Nash booking WCW. And then Matt skipped this one for natural and has in a few years. The thing we say is he'll forget that we've mentioned it and he'll end up watching it anyway. So
yeah, and I will go into it optimistic as well because I will have forgotten.
Yeah, and then you'll just be so disappointed. Dan Griffin says this sounds like classic Kevin Nash booking. Yeah, I think he seemed to book like he was booking a movie. Like I think he was the Vince McMahon of WCW, that he hated wrestling. He would put on a show with zero wrestling if he could.
But Vince Russo was similar, wasn't he? Russo, when he was booking WCW, he wrote, and he said himself so many times on his own podcast, he said he was writing a TV show. He wasn't writing a wrestling show.
Mm-hmm.
So, but Russo had some success. Russo's WCW, it wasn't, don't get me wrong, it wasn't successful to keep the company in business, but it was starting to pull the nose up a little bit on the ratings. And in WWF, obviously, Russo had a hand in the Attitude Era as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I suppose it just depends on who's writing it as opposed to the style of writing, potentially.
Yeah. And the building of characters, I suppose.
Yeah.
Where Russo was very good at building characters. Not always the best characters, but when he was guarded, he was good at building characters. Kevin Nash wasn't building characters at all. He was just writing ridiculous TV. Anyway, back to the chat. Sharon saying that Kelly Barbie's name isn't actually spelled differently, so that's maybe why.
How would that work in a legal standpoint?
Yeah, is she not called? Is it like Barbie Blank? She's called Barbie Blank. Yeah.
You could work a gimmick with that. That's a great name. And then you look at her; she looks fantastic. There must be a legal reason why they couldn't use the name. There must be, because my mom wouldn't pass that up, surely.
Well, this is it. I mean, he would have her dressed. He'd have her coming out with someone looking like a Ken doll.
Eric Bischoff in '93.
Dan says December to Dismember was even worse than the Doctor Who that he's watching now. So that is a testament to how bad that pay-per-view is. Hall of Lame.
There's vampires on both shows.
There we go. So the similarities with that episode, uncanny. Russo wrote as a TV show, but Russo could write TV. Kevin Nash could barely write his name. He's still signed the checks, though. Still signed the checks. Also, Russo stabilized or increased ratings whenever he was in charge of WCW Creative. Correct. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's the chat all caught up on.
Yeah. Well then, Magsy. Well then, I suppose we better jump across to our non-wrestling topic this week, my friend.
Let me get the burp up.
NWT time. Oh, no wrestling talk here. It's the non-wrestling topic.
Lovely.
Nice. Lovely. Nice.
Oh, lovely.
Lovely.
Let me get the burp up.
That's disgusting, Charlie, that burp. Horrific.
I think if Charlie did do that, she'd take off. Just like, whoop, off she goes, you know? Our non-wrestling topic this week is based upon a TV show that I don't even know if they make it anymore, Magsy. Do they still make it?
It got rebooted a while ago, but I think it may have got quickly put back in Room 101 itself.
Because Paul Merton hosted it for a while, didn't he?
Yeah, and I think was Frank Skinner or was he a guest on it?
No, I think Frank
Skinner did some as well.
Yeah. We're obviously referring to Room 101, a TV show that enabled people to dispose of things they hate or that makes them cross or whatever into Room 101. Similar, I guess.
Potentially, because the host did have vetoing powers.
So have we got vetoing powers, Magsy?
Absolutely. If we don't both agree, it doesn't go into the chain wrestling Room 101.
Okay, so we've both got to agree. I'm on board with that. I'm on board with that. Okay.
Dan, just warning, Dan. Mushrooms probably is not going to go in. Just letting you know.
Yeah, fair shot, mate. Fair shot. And it also ties in with the fact that this is our 101 episodes now, isn't it? You know, episode 101.
I'm glad you went with the fact that it's the 101st episode and not the 69th live episode, because I don't know how it go with the censors. I was talking about 69s.
Yeah, we're so freaking immature. But yeah, that's the gist of what we're doing. It's kind of like Hall of Lame, but for non-wrestling topics, I guess, Magsy, in a way.
Mhm.
Okay, I will run through what we get in the order it arrived into us, as always. I can see you mocking me in that little tiny corner.
I mean, it would just be easy for you to just have your phone and the page up, and then you could go through it in the order that it displays on the screen. But
Yeah, but I did that before, and I've missed a couple, and you were like, "Oh, you've missed that one, and you missed that one."
that is
So now
also true. So you
now I
can't win.
screenshot it.
So now it's a non-wrestling topic. You can't win.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. We start with Dan Griffin at Dan Griffin 21 on Twitter. He says, he probably wants to throw in Vampires of Venice, the Doctor Who episode he's currently watching, but I would veto that straight away, just to be a dick. Dan Griffin says, first of all, Magsy's already alluded to it. Mushrooms, disgusting, evil bastards. Magsy?
No, I don't agree that they are. They're only disgusting if you prepare them wrong, and I like mushrooms. And also, I watched a documentary with the wife recently, and mushrooms and the fungi category that they're in are so pivotal to the world that even plants and trees depend on the infrastructure that mushrooms and spores provide. So mushrooms are vital for the world. So no, they're not disgusting. They're not evil. If it wasn't for mushrooms, we wouldn't be around. So no, they're not going in.
And they're banging in a fry-up as well.
Well, you heathen. But
don't you have mushrooms in a fry-up?
Yeah, but not just on a fry-up. They're very versatile for the mushroom.
Yeah, no. I've had them in an omelette. I've had them in toasted sandwiches.
I've had them in a breakfast and an omelette.
I'll eat them raw out of the fridge as well, mind. Straight out of the thing.
Oh, no, that's too far.
Is it? Okay. Yeah, Shah did say it's a bit gross, but I like it. Okay, mushrooms are not going in, I'm afraid. I'm not going in. Dan continues, shit drivers. Useless, aggravating bastards.
100%.
Yeah, I'm on board with that.
If you can't drive, you are the most annoying person in the world.
Well, I can't drive.
No, I don't mean you can't. I don't mean you can't drive, as in you haven't got a license. I mean you've passed a test and you have the ability to drive, but you don't show that ability.
Right. Yeah.
You're
fair
a
enough.
prick.
Okie doke. People who are dicks to retail service staff, bastards. Yeah, just people there trying to earn them. A lot of these people are on minimum wage and they don't want to be doing this job, but they need to earn a few quid for their families. Don't be bastards.
I agree. I totally agree with that one. So he's got 2 out of 3 in so far.
And then Michael McIntyre, shit bastard. Yeah.
When he first come on the scene, he was all right. I remember he telling a joke about the mandro and all the stuff that men keep in there, like an Allen key or for bleeding the radiators or batteries. And then he never ever changed, and it was the same thing for the decades and decades and decades. So I think he started not bad, like a southern version of Peter Kay, and then just nosedived. So yeah, he can go in.
Yeah, I think I agree.
Plus, I hate his floppy hair.
Yeah, stupid floppy hair. Early Michael McIntyre, like you said, the first couple of shows I caught on the telly when he was doing his stand-up, that was funny. But he got to a point where it was just so much of the same over and over again, and now I just find him annoying.
Yeah, I just want to punch him.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, fair enough. Danny at Scottish Juggalo on Twitter, he says, people who vape on the underground tube. Nothing against vaping, but it must take an absolute tosspot level of idiocy to feel the need to do that in a packed, stuffy, enclosed space that has no windows.
Yeah, absolutely makes sense. I mean,
I can go in.
He didn't need to put all the rest of it. He just needed the first maybe 3 words of that sentence.
Yeah, I totally agree. What are you giggling at now?
Because I think he should have just put people who vape.
People, no, I vape.
I rest my case, Your Honour.
Oh, knobhead.
No, he's right. I mean, if that's what you want to do, that's absolutely fine with me. But when you're doing it and enforcing it on others because you try, whether it's on the tube or on a bus or in like enclosed public areas, yeah, you're a tosser. You're selfish.
Yeah. And you're banned from most places. No, you can't do that anyway. So
if you're doing it, you're an illegal tosser.
Exactly. Connor Knows Soccer at Connor Knows Footy on Twitter. He says, Tottenham, the city, and the football club, dirty bastards.
Is there a city called Tottenham? I thought it was just like an area.
Is it like a
Scottish Danny? Is that near you in Canning Town, the area, the city of Tottenham? But he's right. Tottenham are pricks.
They got this kind of. I know a few Tottenham fans are all right, don't get me wrong, but you seem to find loads of Tottenham fans have this kind of sense of entitlement, like they think they're a bigger deal than they actually are.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think that's most London club fans anyway.
Okay. I mean, you can direct your hate to @podfathermag.
You can. You direct it there because I won't check it.
No, that's very true.
Hate away, bitches.
Yeah, this one I'm not sure about, Magsy. Football referees, blind and deaf bastards. I don't agree. And
I think there's a couple of refs who are twats, but all in all, normally referees are pretty good. I don't think they've been helped recently with VAR. I think the issue is that when a ref makes a bad call, it stands out and it's like it's highlighted in the media. So yeah, I can't lump in all referees because of a few bad apples. So yeah, that doesn't go in.
My mindset goes back to when me and Sharon used to run a Sunday side, and we'd always get told in the meetings, it doesn't matter how bad your referee is, if you abuse him and he doesn't turn up next week, if you haven't got a referee, you haven't got a game.
Exactly.
And that line always stood out in my head. If you haven't got a referee, you haven't got a game. So yeah, I don't think referees can be binned off.
No. And like I said, there will be bad referees, no doubt about it, but you can't lump them all in you can't tar them all with the same brush.
Yeah. Cam at CamGriff92 on Twitter. He says, first world room 101, but non-quilted toilet roll. Just why? Might as well get a piece of 40
middle class fucker. Cam, you are betraying your Yorkshire roots. That is so middle class.
So he says here, might as well just get a piece of 40 grit sandpaper to clean the hoop. So when the further you go,
there's a difference. I mean, there's the blotting paper stuff. Did you used to get that in school? The stuff like tracing paper. Tracing paper.
Yeah. Blotting paper and tracing paper are very, very different, Max.
I meant tracing paper. Okay,
right.
Pedantic. But yeah, I mean that's middle class to me. But I agree with him because I have to have the one with aloe vera impregnated into the paper. So I'm as much as a middle class tosser as I'm calling him. So yeah, absolutely, non-quilted toilet roll can get in the fucking bin.
I agree. So did you say you wanted aloe vera impregnated into your toilet roll?
Yeah, I didn't know the proper vernacular. Sorry, it weren't like one toilet roll and another toilet roll loved each other very much, and
they made a little aloe vera baby.
Yeah, exactly. It's soothing on your butthole.
It is. I'm so sampling that.
That's a t-shirt. It's soothing on your butthole.
Soothing on your Chain Wrestling Live. Soothing on your butthole. Let us know in the chat if you'd buy that. Cam also says, coriander. Grim, green, soapy shit. Nope, I like coriander. I got a veto of that one, Magsy.
So this feels like a Cam problem. He's obviously got that gene where coriander tastes like soap. I think Paul Tollier has got it as well. No matter how many times they taste coriander, it tastes like soap. To me, I think it enhances whatever you put it in. So yeah, Coriander is here to stay, motherfucker.
I like it on when you have like a naan bread from the curry shop, from the takeaway and that bit of coriander on there. That's lush.
Yeah, the wife puts it in a homemade curry, and if you don't put it in, you notice the difference. Oh yeah.
I don't know why, but because of the conversation we just had, when you started that, I thought you were going to say my wife puts it in her toilet roll.
Yeah, she just wipes a butthole with it. She's got to
Coriander.
be very careful though, because it's really small leaves, so she can only really do it with a little finger.
Oh dear, we're taking a dark turn again, aren't we? And Cam also says, road rage. Calm down. Life's too short to act macho while sat on your heated seat looking like a beetroot. Yeah, I'm on board with that.
Yeah, and Dan Griffin says, Cam deliberately aimed the road rage one at me. He hates it when I road rage. The issue is, do you sit on your heated seat looking like a beetroot, Dan?
Interesting.
That sounds unhealthy, sir. But yeah,
Indeed.
road rage. Wankers.
Yeah, that can go in.
Yeah, that's got in.
Steve-O, at Total Steve-O on Twitter. We have here from Steve-O. What 3 things to put in room 101? Ricky Gervais
I don't think I've got the Steve-O one.
Well, there you go. Let's see. So that shows that my method is better.
Yeah, well, I also can't highlight it, but anyway, Sa continues.
Sai does continue, as Steve-O continues. Ricky Gervais's Afterlife. I absolutely detest it. Yes, the story has actually got a nice meaning and sentiment, but its delivery is terrible. I've never seen it, so I've got no real issue with it going in.
Well, I liked it. I think it dragged out over. It could have been told in 1 season instead of 3. So no, it's not going in.
Okay, doke. That's veto, Steve-O, I'm afraid.
I enjoyed it, but it did drag. But that's not a reason to put it in.
Okie doke. Any fitness YouTuber clickbait hungry, desperate souls that'll do anything for views. Yeah, I mean, if you got someone on YouTube who's just trying to capitalize on other people to get views and money, and it's to do with fitness ain't my bag, mate.
I mean, clearly it's not mine neither.
I can go in.
Yeah, it absolutely can, because I don't watch it. So yeah, it could piss off.
Yeah, fair enough. And Steve-O says here, any customer, this is a at Rantermeisters episode, any customer that cannot be bothered to simply look for the most obvious of things, i.e. when he asks with a dumbstruck face, where's the frozen section? Or if they're in the milk section, where's the milk? Steve-O works in retail, yeah.
Oh, that would annoy. That would annoy the fuck out of me.
He continues as well.
I would call them idiots to the face. I would get sacked because I couldn't put a brave face on that and just let it go. I would slate them.
Steve-O continues, asking me or any colleague what the ingredients are in a product they're buying, and you literally do what they should do and read them the list off the back.
Again, I'd just walk away. I'd just walk away muttering under my breath, "You fucking idiots." Yeah.
Steve says, when you get this 100 times a day, you realize how many morons there are on this planet. Yeah, I think that can safely go into the Chain Wrestling 101. Yeah, definitely in. Here we go then. This one is going to be interesting. Well, let's have people's thoughts in the chat as well when I shake this out. Quite simply, from at Pigs Bladders on Twitter, who, by the way, is responsible for some absolutely fantastic graphics and has designed a t-shirt for the Back When show that's on the network using a sort of similar font to the Back to the Future design on their logo and so on. It looks incredible. This guy is amazing. Check out his stuff. And I hope that he takes my advice and starts doing it to try and make himself a few quid, because his work is that good, Magsy.
Yeah, absolutely.
He says here, I don't even know how to explain this one. We all know you either love it or hate it. I really hate it. And he says Marmite.
Sin.
Nope.
It's in.
I'm vetoing that. I love it.
Well, you can get to fuck.
Nope.
Because it's grim. It's absolutely grim.
No, I love Marmite. Love it. It's fantastic.
Like arse. It tastes absolutely like arse.
Like coriander arse.
Soapy, slimy, mushroomy arse.
Let's have it in the chat then, CWF. Love Marmite or hate Marmite? Let us know. As simple as that, please. I'm vetoing that though, mate. That can't go in because I love it.
Well, if the chat say hey, it goes in.
Okay. Okie doke.
We've already breaking the rules, and this has only been going for this episode.
Yeah. At Joshua Goodwin PW, who today on the NXT Rise and Fall podcast on the SJP World Media Network did a sort of Ask the King Anything, is the gimmick we ran with today for a special sort of detour from our usual method of reporting NXT. Had some fantastic questions come in, and Joshua's insights into how the wrestling business works, or his experiences at least with inside that bubble. It's fantastic conversation for me to have had, and the responses were awesome as well. So I implore everyone to go and check it out. It comes out every Monday, and as I said, today's was a Ask the King Anything, and it was a fantastic conversation, Maxie.
Yeah.
But he says here, Heart Radio. There's more than 8 songs that exist, so play more than 8 songs. On a similar subject, Bad Habits by Ed Sheeran. It was fine till it was the only thing on Heart for 3 months. While we're on about it, Ed Sheeran. Stop singing about being drunk, broke, and living in a tree. So, Maxie, we'll start with Heart Radio.
I don't listen to it.
No.
But any radio station that just sticks to the same songs over and over again would annoy the shit out of me. So if that's what Heart Radio does, then it goes in.
Yeah, I'm more than happy for it to go in. The song Bad Habits by Ed Sheeran.
I'm not a massive Ed Sheeran fan. I think he's just a poor man's Ron Weasley. Okay. He's an embarrassment to the ginger community.
Is that right? Yeah.
Well, it can go in for me. I mean, he was kind of like Michael McIntyre. It was good when he first come out because it was something different, like when he came out with like A-Team and stuff like that. But it's the same bullshit. All his songs are the same. So yeah, fuck Ed Sheeran. Stop wearing plaid as well, you tosser. You've got millions of pounds now. Wear some decent clothes and get your ginger haircut.
Are you done?
Yeah. Apologies.
I veto it. No, I'm not.
Can you imagine you, the heavy rocker of the team, going, "Oh, he loves me a bit of Ed Sheeran."
No, he can get in the bin, mate. He can get in the
Bad habits lead to late nights.
What the hell was that?
that's you or somebody from Gloucester singing along to an Ed Sheeran song.
It's that Ed Sheeran cut from the Wurzels tribute album. Joshua Goodwin also says here, Uncle Elon trying to drive us all off Twitter. We'll have to do these polls somewhere else, and that's an inconvenience.
I mean, Elon Musk, what a pillock. I mean, I know he's very, very rich, but I think it may be through luck rather than judgment, because he paid, 44 billion for Twitter because he didn't like there being bots, and then tried to back out of the deal. The court said, no, you've agreed to this, you've got to pay it. And it lost 36 billion in value in the week that he's owned. It's now estimated to be worth about 8 billion. Plus, he sacked a lot of the staff. Yeah. And now anybody can get verified as long as you've got $8 a month.
Oh, that's blue tick for chain wrestling coming in then. Yeah, no, I'll go along with that. He can get in the bin. He can get in Ring 101. Rob at UTT Rob on Twitter. And it's a two-parter here because Joshua Goodwin responded to Rob as well. Rob simply says, the government. And I'm going to take that as meaning this incarnation or recent incarnations of the government. And yeah, that can get in the bin. Gang of bastards, lying pieces of shit. I don't want to go too much into it because I'll get too cross, Mags. Yeah,
I mean, governments in general are usually out to stiff the poor and look after the rich. But this current government has been so barefaced at doing that they haven't even tried to hide the fact that they hate foreigners, they hate the poor, they hate the disabled. This government is horrific. A bunch of evil bastards. So yeah, they absolutely are going in.
Yeah, totally agree. Joshua Goodwin responded, not a fan of the antiquated. What?
I think he meant antiquated. And you're making me fucking up. Antiquated.
Antiquated methods of government. I'm all for tradition, but a little streamlining would go a long way.
Yeah,
Also,
but how do they pay themselves and their friends billions of pounds on the taxpayer if they streamlined it? You've
there's
got to think
fuckers
about it.
literally sat there. See, you started me off now. There's fuckers literally sat there in the House of the House of Parliament, House of whatever. Do you know what I mean? It literally sat there asleep. They're asleep in these meetings when they're supposed to be representing those who have voted for them. You fucking cunts.
And that's it. That's you're lucky that they've turned up because a lot of them don't.
Yeah, absolute bastards. Also, the childish point scoring on all sides. You guys are supposed to be running the gaff. Stop behaving like you're on the terraces at a local derby. Yeah, get on with
Yeah.
it. Just stop bickering back and forth and get on with it.
So recently, with the changes in prime ministers and things like that, I've actually caught quite a few prime ministers question time on the Parliament YouTube channel, and it is so childish. It's all words to score points rather than kind of like getting to any action. It's all like joking and scoring points off each other. It's very, very childish. So that can go in as well.
Yeah, getting a bit full now, Maxie. Getting a bit full. We'll have to see what else we've got coming into us here from the CWF. We have James at Yamoroit. He nailed it.
Right?
Nailed it, mate. Nailed it. Football. I have an unhealthy relationship with it. It's mental abuse. I keep going back.
But you love it. Yeah. So it can't go in because if you didn't have it, you just wouldn't have. It'd be just a darker place if we didn't have football. So
Yeah,
I can't put football in. Unfortunately,
I can't. Some of the joy football's given me in my life from when I used to pretend I could play a bit, and then when me and Shah ran a club, and then watching Gloucester City, watching United, watching England in tournaments. Yeah, okay, lots of heartbreak and disappointment too, but that's
the
what
highs
makes
and the lows.
that's what makes the good points that's what makes the highs so good, you know.
Mhm. I agree.
Yeah. Also, watching my little girl playing. Oh yeah, I can't get rid of football. Sorry, mate. That's fully vetoed all over the shop.
Yeah.
Arctic Monkeys, James also says, used to be good. Now just completely changed their sound, but kept the same name. If their latest album was their first, they would be shit.
Yeah, it's the latest album's called The Car, I think. I liked early Arctic Monkeys. I've kind of like gone off on their newer stuff, so kind of like James. But I think music is one of those kind of mediums where you should be allowed to grow and you should be allowed to change your style because you shouldn't always be pigeonholed into doing one form of thing. It's expression, it's art, isn't it? So whilst I agree with him that their later music is not for me, it is shit. I can't see him going in because
shall we compromise?
The first album was an absolute banger. The first 3-4 albums were bangers.
See, I've got no opinion either way. So shall we compromise and just say later Arctic Monkeys can get in the bin? Yeah.
I'm happy with that.
And then finally from James, Star Wars, boring.
Now I think he spelt wars wrong because it should be spelt Trek. Now that can go in. Star Trek can go in. Star Wars not so much. Especially the first three because I think they're absolute classics. The extended universe, I'm meh about it, but yeah, I'm not putting Star Wars in. So
no, see, I agree. I'm not into it. My lad loves it. You know, he's crazy on Star Wars and has been, ever since he was tiny. My kid brother loves it as well. But again, I don't know if it's an age thing, Maxie, because the first 3 films, yeah, I loved them when I was younger. And I could probably rewatch them now and still enjoy them. But all the stuff you get after that, I don't like. I've tried it. No, not for me. So again, should we compromise and say all Star Wars apart from the first 3 can get in the bin?
Yeah. The extended Star Wars universe can go in.
There we go. And Star Trek,
it can piss off.
I don't watch it now, but when I was a kid, it was one of those. I think it's one of those things where the Next Generation was on, at like 6 o'clock or whatever it was on BBC Two, and we only had 4 channels back then. So as a kid who was like 10, 11 years of age, I didn't want to watch the news. I didn't want to watch Home and Away.
I would rather watch the news. I mean, I like watching the news, to be fair. But as a 10-year-old, I would have rather watched the news than watch shitty Star Trek.
Oh, okay. Guys, I don't know. So I didn't mind a bit of Next Generation, a bit of the original series every now and again, but it's not something I watch now. So maybe it was literally just because I didn't have other options.
I mean, you're arguing the case. It wasn't his pick, so it doesn't matter.
Fair enough. Let's move on. And we have a couple here, Magsy, from Millwall Chris, who DM'd them to the show.
So are you missing out Matt Butler then? So you're not getting a go?
Oh, see, I fucked that up as well, haven't I?
Yeah, you did.
You'll have to read that out, Magsy.
Apologies,
I can't see that.
Matt Butler. So
yeah, I am very sorry.
Matt Butler at Trey Butler says ketchup, no place for it, surpassed by every other condiment, and ruins everything it touches. Jesus, he does not like ketchup. It ruins everything. Ruins everything it touches. I'm not a massive fan of ketchup.
No.
But I don't have a deep rooted hatred to it as Matt does. But because I don't have it, I'm happy for it to go in. So it's on you.
See, I've never really liked ketchup for as long as I can remember. I was, different stuff I prefer for different meals. But recently, we got an air fryer.
Oh.
And when I've got
you're middle class. Why is everyone becoming middle class on this show all of a sudden?
Well, when I got a few beers in me, and don't worry, Sharon's already told me off about it. I'm not supposed to do it, and actually, she's now bought me a little tray so I can, do it properly without wrecking her air fryer. But you've welded ketchup to the air fryer. No. No, what I've started doing when I'm a bit pissed up is I'll have something potato based, whether that's a few croquettes or whatever, and then I'll chuck
croquettes. Who are you? Who's this person in front?
That's just what they're called. It's not posh. It's £1 from Iceland, you fucker.
Waffles or chips. That's the two potato options,
right? Or some hash browns or whatever. But then I'll chuck a few frozen Brussels sprouts in there as well.
What?
In the air fryer, and it fries them up and makes them really crispy, and they are gorgeous.
You animal,
right? But then I'd put a bit of ketchup on top of that, and that's banging.
Oh, that's grim.
But that's when I'm pissed. If I'm sober, I'm not sure. I've never tried it without the booze in me. So
that's your homework.
Yeah, try that
with some potato croquettes, and some Brussels sprouts. You can't say Brussels sprouts posh, can you?
No, you can't. You can't.
Well, yeah, try that. But that's grim. Brussels sprouts in the air fryer.
Fryer, mate. Everything is so much better in the air fryer.
Oh yeah, I agree. I mean, we've got one, and it's amazing. You cook a chicken in it, and it comes out absolutely amazing.
Oh, interesting.
But Brussels sprouts. But I would rather.
Yeah. I would
rather eat my own shit than eat a Brussels sprout.
I don't like sprites, and I don't really like ketchup. But for some reason,
but in the air fryer, it magically changes it. Changes it into like a trifle.
Yeah, okay, we'll go with that. Anyway, Millwall Chris via. Are we done with Matt?
No, we're not. Sorry, Matt. Again, the sheer disrespect. It's literally on the screen in front of you that there's more than one sentence.
Yeah, but I can't read that. It's too small.
You don't have to read it. You can see where there's spaces between the 3 picks that he's put in.
All right. Come on then.
So the next one is put in carpets. Says there's no point in them at all. Too high maintenance. Everything stains them, and they all look shit. Yeah, but the thing with a carpet is they feel nice to bare feet. Wooden floors are cool, but the first step on a wooden floor is always freezing cold. And he is right; they are high maintenance. I had to buy the wife a rug doctor vacuum, which was about £400 to keep the stains out of the carpet. So I do concede that point. But no, it can't go in because it just feels good on your tootsies. So
it helps keep the room warm as well, doesn't it? Like when you got the heating on.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I can't bin carpets off, mate.
And you can also use carpets to abuse people by
Okay.
so you're barefooted, or you can do it like if you've got socks on. You rub your feet as hard as you can on the carpet, and then you touch someone with your finger and give them a little static electric shock.
You sadistic bastard.
It's brilliant.
Oh dear. Okay, so what's the last one next? We haven't had one, don't we?
It says vegans remove them to offset the carbon footprint of beef. Remove vegans. Just eat the vegans.
Eat the
Eat
vegans.
the
I got no issues with vegans themselves, but I have an issue with the fact that vegans have to tell you they're vegan every 30 seconds.
That's true. Now,
You know,
I've been having a lot more vegan meals over the last few months. I've really got actually into like not the philosophy behind veganism, because I do like bacon and I do like steaks.
I've not got into the philosophy of veganism.
No,
'cause I like
there is
bacon.
there is a philosophy. It's not about like harming animals and eating things that
Yeah.
have a face and stuff like that. And I appreciate that, but I don't tell other people how they should live their life. So vegans should tell us how to live our life. But I do like some vegan food, so I can't put it in because of that. Because without that, I wouldn't have my delicious vegan food. So
Okay.
there we
I had a vegan quiche the other day,
go. Okay, I mean,
but it wasn't intentional.
it was an accident. I
Yeah.
accidentally ate a quiche.
Well, I went to Tesco's on my lunch break. Other supermarkets are available, but this one's just the fucking closest. So I went to Tesco's on my lunch break at work, and they had like the reduced section, don't they? And it was, all got to be eaten that day. And it's like, well, it's for my lunch that day, signed. And they had this little quiche there for a quid. And I thought, well, that'll fill me up. I can eat it during the afternoon as well. Ate it. Thought that was banging. What was that? Looked at it, and it said vegan on there. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Now, if that was Mrs. Maggs, she detests anything that is labeled vegan. She will not eat it whatsoever. She just hates the thought of vegan food. So like corn, anything like that, she won't eat. I got her some do you know Magnums? Do you know like the ice cream chocolate? Yeah. And I accidentally got her some vegan ones, and she was fuming. Absolutely fuming. Now, normally in our house, a box of Magnums, they don't even get to touch the freezer before people are in whipping them and they're away. Those Magnums survived a good 6 months before they eventually got eaten because they were vegan.
Why?
So Mrs. Maggs, it would definitely go along with Matt and say vegans can get right into Room 101, but she's not in charge, so she can get fucked. Veganism is not going in. I'm sassy today, aren't I?
You are, mate. You're quite fired up, aren't you? You're criticising me for my Brussels sprouts in the air fryer.
Grim.
Should we get to Millwall Chris now then, or is there any more I've missed?
I think that's it.
Right. Okay. Millwall Chris on Twitter. He says here, a couple of late entries for the Room 101. People who don't have basic manners, like saying please and thank you, knobheads. Yeah, they can get in. 100%. People who walk along the road with their head down, staring at their phone, and then wonder why they almost walk straight into me and my small dog. Yeah, not above anything. That's dangerous.
Yeah, there was a Fess Hall. Is it at Fess Hall on Twitter? They put it's where you can confidentially admit things, and they'll post it onto Twitter for you. And they put up a post saying someone's guilty pleasure was actually bumping into people who was like fixated on the phones whilst walking. A bit cruel, but also absolutely massively hilarious.
Yeah, just don't do it.
Don't do it.
Yeah, exactly. People who just suddenly stop for no reason whilst walking along the road.
I mean, what did they have to slowly indicate
give
and
hand
come to a
signals.
stop? Yeah, I'm attempting to stop.
I mean, I suppose it's less risky, Chris, if you're not stood so close to them trying to sniff their hair.
Yeah, maybe that is a Millwall Chris issue. It feels like it's a very isolated problem with Millwall Chris, like with people walking. I mean, I think maybe he needs to respect people's personal spaces.
Yeah. People are always bumping into him, or they stop and he bumps into them. Around Millwall, is it just really, really dense population?
Just 7 million people packed into like a square mile.
Everyone shuffles in the same direction. If you want to go left and everyone else is going right, you're fucked. You got to wait for it to go round. You know. Is that going in, Mags?
I missed my turning. They're all going in so far.
Yeah, fair enough.
We'll give him that. We'll give him them.
Oh, this one vetoed straight away. Tuna, it's rank and should be banned. Nope.
Yeah, that's wrong. Tuna's amazing.
Vetoing that one.
Yeah.
And then
any fish. I don't get how people don't like fish. That annoys me.
What about the?
I don't like fish there. But
yeah,
I would eat anything out of the sea, like seaweed, delicious. Like crude oil when that's been spilt, that's delicious as well. Yeah, I love my seafood.
Okie doke. And
octopus, squid, shark.
I bet shark's quite nice.
Jellyfish.
See, I don't know because I don't like the texture of all that. It's like blancmange, isn't it? It's all. Do you know what I mean?
I've never really ate jellyfish, to be fair.
Okay.
What? Like squid is not like blancmange, though.
It's all wobbly and squidgy, isn't it?
Oh,
is it not?
It looks like that when it's alive and like swimming around and that.
Yeah, that's the impression I get of it then, because that's all I know what it looks like.
So that's how you would judge food that goes on your plate. So when have you seen a pork chop just rocking around a pigsty?
Okay, good point. Oh, Jesus. Yeah, that's a fair point. And lastly, from Chris, he says, people who say they don't like music, seriously, what's wrong with these freaks?
Exactly. That goes along the same as people who say they don't like fish. What the fuck is wrong with you? I mean, yeah, music is amazing. It can change your mood, it can change your mindset, it can make you emotional. Yeah, I mean, if you don't like music, then what you mean is you don't like a particular music.
That's what I was going to say. There's such a broad scope, isn't there? You know, saying I don't like music is just like, well,
it's impossible to not like some kind of music.
Maybe they just not discovered what they like, I guess.
Exactly.
I don't know. And finally, Mill Chris says, Morty.
How many dues is he having?
Well, by the way I've just said, and finally, that should be a bit of a clue for you.
Okay.
And finally, Millwall Chris says, Morty and Fitch as well. Well, not them directly. Not them directly, but I now can't say my wife without saying it in that stupid voice. My wife.
I get abused for that as well. That's unfair. Yeah, just chuck them in because they're just a stain on the underpants of our community.
Morty is.
I love him.
Morty's part of a fantastic show that covers Murder in Mind, though. That's a great podcast.
He's carried very well on that show. He appears on the show.
Trust me, he does a lot more work for it than I do.
I mean, I feel his pain.
Whoa. Magsy, what about your good self?
Brussels sprouts are definitely going in. Fuck them.
Vetoing that, mate, because I like them in the air fryer.
Well, you're an animal and you should be on a register. Bubbly chocolate, that can get right in.
No, vetoing that.
Southerners, they can go in.
What the fuck?
That cheese can go in.
No, actually, I know you like
that's
cheese.
A lie. I do like cheese. Gloucester, just the town of Gloucester can go in.
We're a city. Fuck you, we're a city.
Well,
some Cheltenham bastards that are a town.
How did me slating your town off lead to you abusing a totally unrelated town?
Big rivalry,
No.
mate, isn't it? Gloucester, Cheltenham, big rivalry.
Tomatoes can go in. Onions.
Oh, no, veto.
A lot of food-based stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
No, onions, man. I love onions.
I like the taste of them. It's the texture of battered onions.
What about pickled
terrific.
onions?
No, absolutely not. Leeks, I
No.
don't mind, which is basically an
That's
onion.
the same.
No, a leek is an onion. It's the onion family. Yeah.
What about spring onions then?
I like spring onions.
Because that's kind of like the crossover between the two, isn't it? That's the missing link.
It's definitely a missing link. But I'm not a very hateful person. I think live and let live. So you know me, I'm placid about things like that.
Yeah. The way you
bubbly
speak to me every
chocolate-
Monday night really shows that.
It's bubbly chocolate Brussels sprouts for me.
Right. Okie doke. Fair enough. I'm vetoing the sprites and I'm vetoing the chocolate.
Brilliant. So all for two.
I would happily throw into room 101 people who use their phones whilst driving. Motherfuckers.
I'm not throwing them in. No.
Are you not? No?
You veto Brussels sprouts. I'm allowing people to drive very dangerously using the phone. Yeah, I hate that. I absolutely hate it. It's horrible.
Absolute bastards. I hate it. That drives me mad. That drives me mad. Anyone who, now that both football clubs have gone up a few leagues away from Gloucester City, anyone who refers to the Cheltenham Town Forest Green game as the big Gloucestershire derby, or even worse,
That's a very localized, specific room 101 entrant there.
Or even worse,
12 people will agree with you.
referring to it as El Glossico. Fuck off. It's like, can you hear yourselves, you scumbags? I mean, first of all, Forest Green is out of Nailsworth. There's like in Nailsworth, there's a bus stop, a pub, and a cow. That's it. And some vegan fucker who's bought a football.
And yet they're still better than Gloucester City.
They're not. I know where they came from, mate. They just got vegan burger money, aren't they? That's the only difference.
On to football. My team absolutely stuffed our rivals this weekend.
Yeah, I saw that.
Fucked them up. Sent the Dingles packing.
Sent the Dingles packing.
Yep.
Going up, Magsy, ain't they?
Well, it looks like both Burnley and Bastards will be going up.
Ah, interesting.
Because we're Burnley are top now till what the end of the World Cup, so like mid-December, and I think Blackburn are third. I think they're third. So looks like that rivalry is going to continue next season.
Ah, okay, nice.
When we can beat them and send them back down. And
around my neck of the woods, mate, Gloucester City, we're hoping to maybe sneak that final playoff spot, but it won't happen. Thank you to everybody who messaged in for our non-wrestling topic this week. We got rid of some absolute crap. And yeah, I'm sorry we had to veto some stuff, but some of it was just unreasonable. You know, it's the way it is.
Yeah, you've got some horrific opinions, CWF, yes. I have to say.
Indeed, but some we also agree with. So there we go. Speaking of opinions and so on, shall we run through the chat quickly before we get round to talking a bit of wrestling?
Yeah, that's there's quite a lot. So apparently, I called coriander curry pop. Is that right? I don't believe that I did that.
I didn't pick up on that.
Oh, okay. So Cam is saying he's sensitive. That's why he needs the 3-ply toilet roll instead of the 1-ply tracing paper, not blotting paper, people.
Blotting paper has a different effect.
Cam says, I think Cam mentioned that Tottenham is a shitty area. And Scottish Danny says, bang on, dangerous. Also, nowhere to park. And when you do park, you probably get them broken into. Brilliant. Cam also then says, I wish football refs would take a leaf out of the rugby referee mindset and just let rip on the players. Yeah, just give them a headset and say, look, you big bastard, fucking behave, or else you're going in the sin bin.
Or a taser.
Or just a shotgun. Just make it like extreme football.
Extreme football. Paul Heyman to promote that.
So Mags impregnated Vera Duckworth. No, aloe Vera. And it's not me Northern like saying hello, Vera.
Yeah, that was your chat up line to Vera Duckworth when you walked in the pub. Hello, Vera.
Brilliant. So coriander is one of Mort's favourite herbs. Kira Bolter with fresh coriander is banging. Yep, that sounds absolutely delicious. Then Dan says he needs to road rage. It's the only time he gets to vent his anger, apart from when he vents his anger on the UTT podcast or the Doctor Who podcast or just on Twitter in general. I mean, you are a very, very angry person, Dan. I think you need some counselling, sir. And then looking like a beetroot, Dan is probably looking more like a Beetlejuice. That's his next year's entrant for the Halloween competition. Scottish Danny saying he's begging for a Corey Star to show up on a future Murdering Man podcast, so Multi has to acknowledge. Brilliant. Sharon saying Ricky Gervais should go in to Room 101 on his own. Scottish Danny agreed, and then Cam says, I wasn't a Gervais fan, Sharon, but I didn't mind Afterlife, to be honest. There you go. I mean, I actually really like Ricky Gervais. I think he can sometimes be a pretentious tosspot, but he's got a very good man for creating interesting comedy shows. So yeah,
The Office is fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. Morty says Pig's Bladder get to work on a grumpy Mags working a checkout. I couldn't do it. I really couldn't do it. I once had a job doing the night shift at a petrol station, and I think I lasted about 4 days because people just annoyed the fuck out of me. Plus, you get a lot of taxi drivers coming into way changing and buy condoms for the prostitutes that they picked up. So that was a thing. Stan says there's something about walking into supermarkets that drops people's IQs by about 50 points. Meaning Burnley, if you drop by 50 points, you're into negative numbers sometimes. Cam says, on comedians, we mentioned James Corden last week. You guys have seen the videos of him using other people's jokes. Yeah, and I also saw a tweet recently that he went to a restaurant a couple of times and he was an absolute knobhead to the staff. Yeah. People like that can definitely go in. People who get a bit of fame, not necessarily always celebrities, but they get a bit of fame and they suddenly think that their shit doesn't stink. I mean, we've seen it in the wrestling Twitter sphere. People will get a few thousand followers, and then all of a sudden they think they're the God's gift to the community. So, yeah, people like that who think the shit don't stink, absolutely can get in. Dan saying he bloody loves Marmite, and then Cam going Vegemite all the way over Marmite. That's just the same thing. It's still like yeast extract in it. So is that not just a brand difference?
They make Vegemite round by me, I think. I think that comes from round by me.
Do they? Just another reason to never, ever visit Gloucester.
Honestly, we're going to have a chain wrestling live done where everyone can just come down for a few beers and watch the cheese roll. That's what we should do.
Yeah, okay. I mean, that might be the very last episode of chain wrestling we ever do. Morty says he loves Marmite. Had some last night with cheese and biscuits. See, and now I'm going back on what I said about Morty and Fitch not going into the Room 101 because Marmite Breath Morty deserve to go in there now for that.
Marmite Breath Morty.
Sharon giggling at me saying, get in the bin. The Marmite Easter egg was elite. You fucking scruff. You absolute scruff, Scottish Danny. You animal. Oh, Jesus Christ. A shout out for the Marmite's rank crew. Yes, James, absolutely. Just these absolute dossers. Both think some of the crunchy peanut butter Marmite still seems undecided. I've seen it. It's on sale at my local Tesco. I would rather, again, shit in my hands and eat that than eat peanut butter Marmite. Why would you wreck peanut butter with the horrific taste of Marmite?
See,
That's
I've not tried that, but I'm really intrigued to give it a go.
Then absolutely you should do it. Just do it on the show.
Yeah.
Let us know what it's like.
Okay. They released some pork scratchings that were Marmite flavoured as well a while back. They were nice.
The heathens, the absolute heathens.
Do you like Twiglets?
I don't know. I remember having them as a kid,
Right.
but I don't know if it was through choice or
Mm.
whether it was just like, kid, have some Twiglets.
I love Twiglets. There you go. That's yours then. Next week, you can try some Twiglets on the show.
Are they Marmite flavoured?
No.
Are you saying that so I get some? Are you trying to lie your way for me to get? Is that what Twiglets taste like? Is it Marmite flavoured?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. They're
I may
Marmite.
be wrong about Marmite then. But, I mean, I don't remember the
Oh
taste
my
of Twiglets. I remember I've eaten Twiglets.
You may be wrong
All
about all
this
the ranting
time-
you've given.
All this time I've slagged, and I might actually be a fan of Marmite. I'm going to have to revisit Twiglets then.
Yeah. Do that.
That's definitely some homework I'll do. Morty says, absolute radio is king.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know, I was talking to the wife about this not long ago. I don't listen to a lot of radio now. With listening to podcasts, radio just isn't on my radar anymore. I only ever really listen to it when I'm in the car with the wife. It's weird that. Anyway, and we listen to Radio 1 because we're like hip.
Yeah, because we're down with the kids. Absolutely good as well because you get like absolute radio 80s, absolute radio 90s, and so on, so that you can sort of even break it down to be a little bit more specific to what you want, I suppose.
Absolute radio Arctic Monkeys, hopefully, for Pig's Bladder. He'll enjoy that. Sharon, I don't know if she's calling me or you this, probably you, but she's calling someone a cunt. Or maybe we'll call it Dan Griffin a cunt. Who knows? A team, A-Team, the song always reminded me of the JCB song. Now that song was a banger. That was Carlos's favorite song for such a long time, and it may be his walkout song for his tournament in Greece. So
nice.
That would be cool. That or I pitched handlebars. Do you know the I can ride my bike with no handlebars. No handlebars. You'll know it if you hear it. But,
so it doesn't sound like that.
No. Does any song I'll sing, does it ever sound like that? Absolutely not. So you don't like Ed Sheeran. I did like his first, I think was it Plus, the first album with the A-Team, and was it Lego House? I think he did a song called. It's since then it just all sounds the same. Absolutely all sounds the same. His song with Chris Stapleton and Bruma, I'm assuming she means Bruno. Bruno Mars is a banger. Oh, she corrects herself. Sorry, she did mean Bruno Mars. Can't say I've heard it. Cam says, thanks, Morty. That was in my head for next week. So that's the A-Team and the JCB song. That's nothing wrong with that. You have a good listen to the JCB. There we go. I'm Luke. I'm Father. My dad's Bruce Lee. There we go. Brilliant song. Absolutely brilliant.
I've got no idea what you're talking about.
You've heard of the JCB song, surely?
Don't think so.
Who even are you? Listen, that you have to do. That,
okay.
I know you never do your homework, but listen to the JCB song.
Whilst you're reading these out, I will find it on Spotify and I will send it to myself so I can listen to it.
Okay. So, Cam says a current MP in a top grade wanker is on a fucking reality TV show. Oh, this is something I did want to rant about. So on Twitter, people are loving Matt Hancock, absolutely loving him, and they're slating Chris Moyles, and I think it's is it Boy George who's in there as well, for giving him shit. But this was the twat who couldn't decide on a lockdown and ended up basically letting COVID run riot through the country, and now all of a sudden people love him just because he eaten a few kangaroo dicks. Yes, absolutely annoying. The government is full of absolute words that we cannot say in chat. Or Sar just dropped the C bomb.
It don't happen very often, unless I'm describing particular individuals, but they don't come up on this show.
Pigs Weller says, "Oh bugger, I forgot to do today's Barry pick."
Yes, Barry Horowitz every day in different situations. It's quite funny.
That's him, isn't it? Who gives himself a slap on the back.
That's it. Yep.
Even worse, they from Cam. Even worse, they get massively subsidised free course meals and made for them and a few bars. Yeah, and the prices are ridiculous.
Magsy coughing his guts up again. Look, because it's Monday night. Look. Standard Mags.
I nearly made it. Made it. So Dan says, as a journalism student, I attended a city council meeting where they spent 15 minutes exchanging Captain Pug Wash related insults. The childishness runs deep in government. Yeah, they're all toffee nose, absolute tosser. Morty says, so outside the political discussion, just download a JCB bag and his played. See, I always knew why Mort was my favourite from Morty and Fitch.
Okay.
See, everyone's adding it now. Cam's adding it. Dan isn't. He's just it's his turn to tell James to piss off because Star Wars is this. I feel the Family Feud coming on. Arctic Monkeys in Room 101 are fucking blasphemous. Yeah, but that's because they're from round your parts, Cam. If they were from Manchester, you would probably not like them as much, you see.
Okay.
But without Star Trek, we wouldn't have the meme. What I mean, I'm not wishing George Takei death. I'm just saying Star Trek was dog shit.
Isn't he dead?
George Takei? No.
Yeah. I thought he died recently.
No, I don't.
I'll look it up, Magsy. I'll look it up.
Mo is saying the Mandalorian is banging. Yeah, I dare say it is. I dare say for a Star Wars fan, a lot of the extended universe is good, but it's in for me. So it goes in Room 101. And
George Takei update. He is alive.
Look, you've done that a lot, haven't you? You've wished people dead. And
I've not wished them dead. I've just thought they already were.
So James says his dad took him to Empire Strikes Back at the pictures. I had one of them watches that you could press a button for it to light up. I kept lighting up every 2 minutes because it was boring. Sharon says ketchup is amazing on an omelette.
Okay, yeah.
Mags with his potato smiles. I've never had a potato smiley. One of the granddaughters absolutely loves them, but I've never had one. And then that was my birthday present. Stop wrecking my air fryer. So you were not even meant to be using that air fryer, sir. So putting Brussels sprouts in it is.
I was allowed to use the air fryer. I was allowed to use the air fryer, but then I sort of dropped into conversation. These Brussels sprouts in the air fryer are banging, and Showers just literally went, "You shouldn't be putting Brussels sprouts in the air fryer. Please tell me you're not doing that." And I was like, "Nope, just the once." It'd been going on about a week. But she's aware of now. She's aware of that.
So, how many times in a week did you have air fried Brussels sprouts?
Only a couple, right? But yeah, it was nice. But now Charles got me this.
Are you only saying it's a couple because Sharon's in the chat, and really it was about 6?
She's got me this little tray thing now, so I can put my sprouts in, right, wrecking the air fryer. See?
Yeah, but you can clean the air fryer.
Let's move on because that's a touchy subject as well. Sharon Panay didn't say that.
What? So you haven't cleaned the air fryer, have you? When you've used it?
No.
Jesus, I didn't realise I was setting up a domestic here.
Yeah, I'm gonna need to move in with somebody.
Moving with Morton Darlington. He's had
that's true.
Potato waffles are immense as well.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently recommended to be done in the toaster. No, under the grill or in the air fryer. No other way. You don't agree, do you, sir?
I've tried them in the toaster. It's not the same.
No, exactly. So essentially, Sar comes home pissed, grabbed whatever he could from the freezer, lobbed it into Sharon's air fryer, and thought he created a culinary masterpiece. That's what it was. It's like, oh, I'm fucking starving, mate.
Oh, here comes
What
the
is there? And looks in the freezer. Shah, where's them potato waffles we had? I can only find Brussels sprouts. Don't be using them in my air fryer. I won't. Oh, yeah, we've got an air fryer. In they go.
It's not too dissimilar to what happened, I suppose.
Sharon says they're actually looking for a new carpet tomorrow as well. Well, no, now they're in room 101. It's banned. You've got to get wood flooring.
Yeah, I got pallets.
Cement.
Cement.
I've got pallets. And you'll have splinters for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So Cam saying Quorn nuggets are class. You know what are best from Quorn? I've been having them a lot recently. The crispy chicken fillets. Oh, they are so damn good. So damn good. Sharon saying people who don't like The Greatest Showman, they can get in the bin.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I don't like musicals at all, but I'll tell you what, that film, we watched it one Christmas for the kids, and it was really good.
This will be something Sharon enjoys. I saw Jared Leto on... Was it yesterday? It was yesterday, yeah. He was...
in Burnley.
No, well, I actually saw him twice in the same weekend because he was a guest at the UFC pay-per-view, and then he was also in Dubai for the Deji versus Floyd Mayweather fight. So I saw him twice on my screens in 2 days.
Yeah, nice.
And I instantly thought of Sharon when I seen him, because nothing else about him appeals to me whatsoever. Cheltenham bastards. I once ate an onion like an apple on a rugby social. Was delicious and rank at the same time. Fucking hell.
Yeah, I did that. I've done that.
That's
it's
horrific.
It's when you have a couple of bites and you get past the initial, it's actually quite pleasant.
You dossers. El Glossico is fucking magic.
Fuck off.
Yeah, I'm going to start watching the El Glossico.
I just hope that they can. Honestly, the lot of them. Fuck them all. You know.
Extreme footy with refs that have a gun. I hope Vince isn't watching chain wrestling tonight. I mean, he's not got anything else better to do with his time. I believe he was seen out with a young lady friend, wasn't he, recently?
At first glance, with my bad eyesight, I thought that was Dixie Carter.
What, the young lady friend? She's about 70 years old.
Just scrolling through, and I had to go back. I was no, it's not Dixie Carter. But I started thinking, imagine that if Vince and Dixie Carter got together and started a separate wrestling company, I'd watch that.
I don't know if I would.
Yeah, a car crash would be fantastic.
Well, Dan said he'd be well up for going for the cheese rolling.
Yeah, let's do it.
Sharon says Twiglets are rank, and Dan says, did Sar just meow rather than answer a question?
Yeah, that's when you asked if Twiglets tasted like Marmite, and I was unsure what to say.
Our belly laughed at Sar's meow.
I said no, but I wasn't very convincing with my no.
And literally just watched Mags's man be blown at that revelation. I like Sar, I forget what I've promised to do on this podcast the minute I stop recording. But I am definitely going to try some Twiglets to see if I like them. And that may make me try Marmite.
I'll tell you what, Magsy, in solidarity with you, I will eat Twiglets on the show next week as well.
Yeah, but you know that you like them.
Yeah.
And I didn't say I'm going to do it like in private in case I do like wrong.
In your alone time.
Yeah. Old Matty Wanks, or Hancock as he's called, is also the knob who put COVID patients in care homes, give out dodgy PPE contracts, and broke his own lockdown for a shag. Exactly. Yeah, he's a wanker.
Yeah.
And they're not cleaning it, you dirty bastard. So I've got you in trouble, sir. Apologies.
No, I've already had my ass kicked, and rightfully so. I've already had my ass kicked about that. So
I mean, how do you not clean it? I am a stickler for cleaning the kitchen equipment after I've used it. Why do you not do it?
I
You
do.
absolutely
I
daft.
clean the kitchen equipment after I use it. Just the air fryer
Clearly.
it's a new thing, and that's the I'm not. I mean, I'm still struggling how to get used to it all. I only
Is it
recently.
one where you can take the baskets that you've cooked the food in out?
No, you press a little, but you got the handle that pulls it out, and you
Yeah.
press a little button on the top, and the rest of it stays, and the basket comes out with the same handle.
Yeah.
But Sharon only explained that to me a little while back as well.
After
So,
you'd
I
cooked
mean, you can see
6
that.
weeks worth of mussels.
I don't know if you can make that out there. That burn there. Where is it? That one there for a start. That's
Yeah.
off the air fryer. That burn just there. That's off the air fryer. I struggled with it for a
You're
while, mate.
like a child, aren't you? I mean, I know I'm like a child, but you burn yourself and you don't clean up behind yourself.
I know how to clean it now, I think.
And last but not least, Sharon saying that Jared Leto does love his UFC. So there you go.
Fine, so there we go. Thank you so much to everybody in the chat for joining in with us once again, even though a lot of it was poking fun at my expense.
Oh,
You
Jesus
bastards.
Christ. Next week's episode, Si will be here with a massive black eye and claiming he walked into a door.
Shall we talk a bit of wrestling, Magsy?
Can you imagine? You go downstairs and Sharon just lamps you. Don't clean out my air fryer, you bastard.
Sharon hasn't got an accent like that. I haven't got an accent. What am I saying? I haven't got an accent like that.
Time for some wrestling.
Let's get ready to Right, Magsy, you won the poll, my friend.
I know. Is that 2 in a row, maybe?
And this was
Whew.
2 three-way polls as well, wasn't it? That you
Wow.
won.
I mean, you and Steve-O did put up horrific picks, so
Bullshit. That
it was
tag
the
match
only logical choice.
That tag match at Survivor Series is very good.
Yeah, it is, but not as good as watching two
Yeah.
matches in one.
Not as good as breaking the fucking rules so you win.
And just for context, one of these matches is not that good, and the other one is bloody brilliant. Which is which? Find out very soon.
There we go. We are heading back to the 27th of February 2000 and the WWF's No Way Out pay-per-view. The options on the poll that Magsy put forward that won were sort of relevant to the Rumble we watched the week before, and also where the story is still heading towards the WrestleMania 16 main event, which I think we've already covered, Mags, haven't we?
Have we?
I think so.
Shit.
I don't know.
That may impact later in the episode.
I don't know if we have or not. I don't
We
think
have. I checked.
Okay.
I checked the outdated Excel file.
It's definitely not been done recently. So if it's been done,
that's how I learn it.
Yeah.
I checked the old ones, and then I think, have we covered it?
Yeah, in the last
months, the last months that Si hasn't updated that Excel file.
Yeah.
So I don't think we have. So you just saved my bacon there because I will have to scramble.
So I wonder where you're going next week. I'm gonna go first for this week when we put forward our options, okay? And I'm gonna choose the main event to WrestleMania 16.
I have a backup, so fuck you.
Yeah, No Way Out 2000. We have the match for, I suppose, the number one contenders spot, isn't it, between The Rock and the Big Show after the controversy at the end of the Rumble that year. And then we
Rock did actually touch the floor.
It makes I can understand why Big Show's pissed, to be honest.
I mean, it was that angry. He got a haircut.
He did. Well, perhaps maybe it's not a haircut. Perhaps he was that angry and stressed out. He just started falling out.
Ripped it out.
Yeah.
He's also got some very Rock style sideburns.
Yeah.
I think he's trying to be the Big Rock.
And the main event of this pay-per-view was the Hell in the Cell match between Cactus Jack and Triple H, which I'm assuming we're going to go in the order of the card. So we'll come to that one second, Magsy, if that's right with you.
No, I think we should put the good shit first and then deal. No, obviously we're going to go Rock Big Show first.
Okie doke. First of all, No Way Out 2000. Great video intro to the pay-per-view. I think the WWF have always done that really well. And in this era, especially with the characters they had around and things being a little bit more edgy, still a bit more attitude, superb.
Yeah, I agree, and I really liked the mini cell over the entrance as well.
Yeah.
I thought
That
that was a
entrance
really
was
cool
cool.
touch. Yeah.
It seemed quite stripped back as well, didn't it? Because it was the cell made it look quite small, but at the same time, it was still really, really well. It just looked great, didn't it?
Yeah, absolutely did.
The video recap for this match, again, WWF production at its best, telling the story of the Rumble finish, and then Big Show trying to convince Triple H, because he was the authority figure at this point, that he should be given a match with The Rock. I personally would be thinking, you should just let me go to WrestleMania, not convince him to let me have a match with The Rock. Bullshit,
Yeah.
because The Rock hasn't won anything.
But it's the old adage of the referee's decision is final. I mean, how many? Even in this match, there should have been disqualifications. If that's the route that Big Show wanted to go down, he should have been disqualified, so he wouldn't have won this match. So at least there's a little bit of continuity with the application of the rules, I suppose.
Yeah, fair enough. On the entrances, Magsy, first thing I noticed with the Big Show was how it seemed like he was maybe, I suppose, giving us a hint of what might happen later in the show, because he was hovering around a certain part of the ring and poking it with his feet a little bit. Did you notice that?
I didn't, but I understand why. Maybe it was to test whether he was going to injure himself if he does any kind of like big spots there.
Yeah.
Learning from the Bulldog, I suppose,
Well,
and Warrior.
Yeah, that's kind of where my mind went to, actually, Bulldog Warrior and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, great shame.
What I did notice was that the crowd were chanting for The Rock way before his music even hit. That guy was over like Rover.
Oh, so popular. It was insane how popular that was. Still to this day, I guess, but so popular then, wasn't it?
And then I think it was Jim Ross said that Big Show was 28 years old.
It's mental.
Yeah, and The Rock was 27. Still pups, still young, and
insane, man.
Yeah, madness.
I mean, with regards to the two of them as well, obviously the Big Show's gimmick is he's bloody big, but The Rock's a massive fella, and Jim Ross talks about him being 6'5", 260 or 265 pound, whatever it may well be. But he looks tiny here next to the Big Show.
Yeah, they go face to face, and The Rock is having to look right up to Big Show's eye line. Yeah, he's huge. There's no getting away. I know WWE tend to massage the build hearts of wrestlers, but there's no way to deny that Big Show was just a freak of a human being.
Yeah, without a doubt. And it also showed early on as well with the actual work they were putting on, because this giant man that is The Rock was being thrown around like he was nothing by the Big Show. And that's an incredible sight as well. Because again, the size difference is, obviously it's obvious there. It's apparent for everyone. But you can't get away from how big a bloke The Rock is. And yet he's getting thrown around like he's a freaking child.
Yeah, great selling as well. I mean, the way he just gets tossed over the barricades at ringside, just like a child being thrown over. Yeah. It's Big Show is just huge, and The Rock really made his offense in the early parts of the match just look devastating.
Yeah, totally. With regards to that offense, then they were fighting outside quite early on, and the Big Show at one point press slams The Rock over his head onto the barrier. That was quite impressive. We also get a power slam as well back in the ring. And that looked great as well, didn't it? I mean, I suppose anyone that size doing that kind of move looks good, but that looked very, very good, Magsy, didn't it?
It did. For as short as this match is, and for the lack of rating I'm probably going to end up giving it, the in-ring stuff was tart. It was pretty much botch free. It was just a well done short match. So the show's offense was good, but it's not long before we start seeing The Rock kind of like take over. We get the spot where he does the spit in the face to kind of like take over. I mean, I don't know what's in American water, but it affects a lot of wrestlers when it gets spat in their faces. It's just brutal.
Blinding, that stuff, mate. Blinding.
It is. It's very blinding.
I suppose you sum it up quite well when you say it's a relatively short match, but what they do is quite good, because there's not much more for us to cover in the middle part of the match there, is it? Before we start getting to I suppose, the silliness towards the end, potentially.
Yeah, there's a little bit more stuff on the outside. I think Big Show does the whips Rock into the ring post. But then once we get into the ring, it's only a couple of minutes before the match descends into the madness of the finish. So Rock in the early parts of the match goes for a Russian leg sweep, and Big Show just absolutely just no sells and doesn't allow it. And I didn't realize how attached to that the Russian leg sweep the Rock was, because he goes for it again later in the match and lands it and gets a 2 count, and he does a really impressive float over DDT, which on someone the size of Big Show you think it'd be really hard to pull off, but that I thought was a pretty cool spot. And then Big Show goes and gets a chair, and this is where obviously we're building to the finish now, but Big Show swings the chair at The Rock and he avoids it. Now, surely if The Rock would have just took that chair shot, he wins the match.
Yes, and he's off to WrestleMania. Why would you avoid that chair shot? It just didn't make sense to me, that part. And then we get the most acrobatic ref bump that I've seen in a long, long time. So Big Show throws The Rock in, basically Irish whips him into the ropes. The Rock runs into Earl Hebner, but Earl is in the middle of the ring rather than being the side of the rope. So he throws himself through the ropes. Yeah. He does a suicide dive essentially through the ropes, which leads to Big Show taking the lead. Tim White comes out, goes to do the count. Then Earl Hebner yanks him out of the ring. Now, earlier in the card, Earl and Tim White had argued over the finish of a match. So they're arguing outside. Shane McMahon comes out, returns after however long he'd been out to No Chance in Hell. That crowd pop for Shane was huge, wasn't it?
Absolutely. And he comes and he basically helps Big Show recover because The Rock has hit a rock bottom. The Rock goes for the people's elbow. Shane jumps in the ring, flying chair shot, which is a signature of Shane. If there's one thing he does good, it's that flying chair shot. And all the time that's happening, we're seeing Earl Hebner and Tim White beating the living piss out of each other at the side of the ring. I thought that was a brilliant spot, because you see referee arguments all the time in wrestling, but to see him actually get physical and like beating the living shit out of each other, which allowed Shane to do what he needed to do and then get out of it before sending Tim White in for Big Show to get the pin, and Show is off to WrestleMania. I think the match was about 8, maybe 9 minutes. Very short, very concise, and The Rock is been screwed, which is ironic because he screwed Big Show at the Royal Rumble. So ipso facto,
justice for the giant, mate. That's what I say. Out of 10, Magsy, for that one, what are we thinking?
Talking about it with you, I actually feel better about it than when I watched it, which is a weird feeling. But saying that, it's still nothing really to write home about. It's essentially a TV match on a pay-per-view. So I think a 5 is probably generous, but I'll go with a 5.
I've got 6 because again, I go back to the original match that we reviewed on the show that we both gave a 5 to. I preferred this to that straitjacket steel cage match with Booker T Steiner. The pop for Shane was fantastic. As you said, everything The Rock did look great. So yeah, I preferred it to that one. So by comparison, I got a 6. But yeah, it was decent enough, but it wasn't spectacular. It's not something I'd rush back to watch again, to be honest.
Yeah, totally agree.
But what followed, Magsy? What followed was a little bit better than that, wasn't it? In my opinion,
it was very, very, very good. Very good.
We have Triple H versus Cactus Jack. Hell in a Cell for the WWF title. And if Jack doesn't win the championship, he retires. Or so we're told.
Does he?
Or does he? The first thing I noticed with the entrances and so on is how great Triple H looked here. He's a massively, put together bloke, of course he is, but it's not Triple H after the injury where he's got so big. He's still relatively lean as well as being a muscular bastard, isn't he? And then you got the lights flashing, that beautiful championship belt. And then obviously Jack makes his entrance, and the cell is still up, which is kind of unique for this time. But we find out quite quickly why, because as the wrestlers are in the ring getting ready and they bring the cell down, you notice that they can't walk through the door to start the match
because
it's got
about 15 padlocks.
It's locked up majorly, isn't it?
It's when the cage hits the floor and then Cactus goes out to check it and he sees the amount of chains on it. It was almost like he wanted to escape as soon as possible because he's there rattling the door. And Triple H uses that as an attempt to maybe get a quick blind shot in, but no, Cactus is not having that.
No. I mean, I suppose I couldn't help but in my head make comparisons between this and the Hell in the Cell match between Mankind and The Undertaker that we reviewed not too long ago, Mags. So that may pop up a little bit as we're talking, but in my head, it kept going. I suppose because we're reviewing them quite close together, aren't we?
Yeah.
So, I mean,
it's hard, even if we weren't reviewing it, it would be hard to not compare because Mankind is inextricably linked to Hell in a Cell matches just because of he innovated them. I mean, everyone knows that the Hell in a Cell with Taker and Shawn Michaels is iconic, but Mick elevated these matches to way more than that first match could ever be, in terms of how brutal, in terms of putting his own body on the line. He took what Shawn Michaels and Undertaker did in that first match, and he just raised the bar to a point where maybe it's never been matched in the years since.
Yeah, totally. Something I get a great deal though from looking at the two here is I think that there are some spots in this match that are really memorable, which we'll come to shortly. That really, iconic images and pictures we see and will see for years. But I think there's more in between those spots here, and more, I suppose, bell to bell, wrestling wise, than what we had with the King of the Ring '98 match, because that was very much two big stunts and then a few other moments, and then the thumbtacks come out, and it was fantastic. Don't get me wrong, I gave it a 10, but here it feels like there's a bit more actual wrestling going on between the big moments.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, and it's because for as good as the chemistry that Mick and Taker had, Triple H and Mick, especially as Cactus Jack, had phenomenal chemistry, and they are both really good workers. And that's not to say Undertaker's not a good worker, but he's limited because of his size. He doesn't have the technical skill, let's say, of Triple H. So there's a lot more that maybe Mick and Triple H can do in terms of wrestling fundamentals than perhaps he could do with Undertaker.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. Yeah, I think so. We do get the steps being used quite early because Foley takes a running bump into them with his knees. That makes me cringe every time I see that.
And then when Triple H throws the steps, that's
Yeah,
a spot you
head.
don't really see. Usually, it's obviously a very kind of cushioned hit with the steps, but he literally just lobs the steps, and the commentary make a big deal of how strong Triple H has to be because they always make out that these steps are 200 pounds. So he's lobbing 200 pounds at ringside. I mean, we all know that they're not 200 pounds.
Well, they don't look light. Don't get me wrong, but
Mick Foley just takes that in the shoulder and the head. Jesus Christ!
mm,
It looks absolutely brutal.
yeah, it's pretty insane. We also get the use of a chair as well in the ring and swung around outside of it. So there's some chair shots to Foley, and also Cactus Jack gets in a low blow with the chair as well, which was quite funny.
That was good. That was really, really good. And then he gets the DDT. I think is it from that.
Yep. Yeah, a drop toe hold by Triple H as well to send Foley head first into the chair. I quite like that. That's quite cool. That's something that we don't see enough of, I don't think.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think there's even a Russian leg sweep where Triple H's head lands on the back of the chair as well. So the use of the chair was it's not easy to be unique with a chair, but they do a good job of putting in stuff that maybe you don't see too often, which is it's all slowly building to the brutality that's yet to come.
Yes, exactly. We get a slingshot on the outside into the cage, which Triple H is then bleeding from. And then we get the spot that Cactus Jack kind of made famous in WCW, where he jumps off the middle rope with a chair, sometimes with just an elbow drop, but here he's using the chair onto the floor. I mean, that looks superb, doesn't it?
It is. It looks brutal as well. Dropping an elbow with a chair again onto someone who's already bleeding like a stuck pig. It was just ramping up the intensity of the match.
We get, I suppose, a little throwback to a few moments ago, don't we? Because the steps are thrown once again, and here they split the cage.
They do,
and that's Jack's opportunity.
Jack sees that there's maybe a way for him to get on top of the cage, but he doesn't just crawl through the gap.
Or give it a little, trying to rip it slightly or something.
No, he throws a body through that gap.
His own.
And then Triple H's.
Yeah. So we're outside the cage now, which is what Jack's wanted all along, really. And they're brawling all over the place. They end up on the announce table, and Cactus Jack delivers a pile driver on there, which I thought was quite cool because the table didn't break either. And sometimes I think that looks more brutal.
Yeah, it does. What I did notice as well, and I don't know if it's the first ever Hell in a Cell match, but they had cutouts in the chain link for climbing up the cage. I don't know if they've done that previously. They may have done, but this was the first one that I'd noticed, or the earliest one that I noticed that they had that, which means we're going up on the roof.
Yeah, I don't know if it was the first because I seem to remember. I don't know whoever it was, Michael Cole or Jim Ross. I want to say Jim Ross, but I could be wrong because he was out for a while with his issues, wasn't he? And they explained the holes in the cage away as being there for the cameramen to film for the TV coverage, which I thought was a really clever little bit of commentary.
Yeah, that does seem clever, but it's just I probably am wrong, and I've just not noticed it on earlier iterations of the Hell in a Cell. But there's so many of them on this one that it's hard not to notice.
Yeah, and Mick Foley tries to use them. He's on his way up the side of the cage before Stephanie McMahon stops him. Which, again, I think this is so clever because you've got the crowd reaction to Foley realizing he can get out the cage. So that's a huge pop there. And it's a brilliant bit of storytelling. But the way he gets out the cage is by the steps breaking the cage, and the steps were used as a weapon earlier on. So it harks back to something they did earlier, which I think was a very clever bit of storytelling. Here, Foley's trying to climb, so you get the crowd reaction to that. It gets stopped. So it's almost like a bit of a tease, because that's what everybody wants to see, isn't it? He wants to see them on the top.
Exactly. And you play with the emotions of the crowd. And you tease them until you finally give them what you know that they've come to see. And it's a good play by WWE at the time. And I think sometimes when you have someone like Stephanie at ringside and involved in the storyline, it can be annoying or overbooked. Their kind of like influence or their interfering in the match. I think in this case, Stephanie played her part to perfection.
Yeah.
She's not involved too much in it, but when she is involved, it adds to the match rather than it just be there because it's Stephanie or because it's interference for interference sake. I think she's used sparingly. I mean, there's a shot later on, we'll get to it, where the camera focuses on her and she's laughing maniacally.
Yeah.
And I think it's such a perfect shot of just how devious and evil the McMahon Helmsley era was. But like I said, I don't think she was overused in this, but her like stopping the tease of Mick Foley going onto a cage, I think it's good booking.
Yeah, it's superb. It's brilliantly done. And I think the way they get up onto the cage is also really great storytelling as well, because Cactus Jack gets out the barbed wire covered 2x4.
Yeah.
And because in my mindset, and again, we hark back to the previous Hell in the Cell that we've looked at very recently. Jack gets to the top of the cage, or as Mankind, to the top of the cage straight away, and almost challenges the Undertaker to follow him. And the Undertaker's desperate to get hold of this guy and kill him, so he accepts the challenge. Triple H here, if Jack climbs to the top of the cage and stands there, what motivation has Triple H got to follow him? He gains nothing. He gains nothing from that. So this way, I think it's really clever, because Triple H climbs the cage first to get away from Cactus Jack, who's all of a sudden got the barbed wire. I think that's a little touch that makes so much sense when you're looking back in the way they're telling the story they put this match together. Yeah,
and you can also tell that they thought about the logistics of taking the 2x4 with barbed wire up to the top of the cage, because it's got a handle. They've screwed a handle to it. So that to me says they've tried this, and they could have easily thrown the 2x4 up, but that would have meant Triple H got hold of the 2x4. So they needed to find a way of Mick to be able to climb the cage with the 2x4, and the handle obviously makes a lot of sense, but it shows the thought that went into it to make sure that the storyline made sense. So yeah, I thought that was a cool little touch.
Yeah, a lot of it makes such perfect sense. We do get the table spot, but not the same level as the Undertaker match, but it's still an incredible bump, isn't it? Because Foley tries to follow him up, and Triple H obviously, and again, makes perfect sense. He's not going to stand there and let the guy climb. He tries to kick him down, which eventually he does, Magsy, doesn't he?
Well, as he's as Mick Foley's kind of getting to the top of the cage, Hunter like basically grates Mick's head with the barbed wire, which just that always makes me cringe. It's such a horrific spot.
Yeah,
but I actually think that this fall, whilst it's not as epic as they're being thrown off the top of the cage, this one is still incredibly brutal because there's a monitor that's kind of underneath the plinth on the table, and it the way Mick lands is it essentially lands with his shoulder hitting that monitor. Now that that must have absolutely been brutal. And I know being thrown off a cage is probably worse, but it still looks so bad when you see that monitor digging into his shoulder after landing on it. So yeah, it's very, very nasty.
Yeah, and I think the seriousness is added to here by Jim Ross, who again is absolutely superb. I'm a big Jim Ross fan, as everyone knows, but there are certain moments where I think it's really important that a commentator adds to what's happening on screen, and I think they can take away or add. I don't think you can just say stuff and it is what it is. I think you can have a positive or a negative effect on what's on screen. And here, Jim Ross puts his serious voice on and starts referring to Cactus Jack as Mick, which makes straight away there's a sense of realism to what's happening here. And he's saying, Mick is hurt. I really mean it. Can we get somebody out here? Get somebody out here now, please. And he is literally doing that. He is pleading with people in the back to get help for his friend. And it does sound like he's genuinely concerned. He's not screaming, good God Almighty, or anything like that. There's a genuine feeling of concern in Jim Ross's voice. And I think it really adds to the drama that we're seeing, Mags.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he does say, I think, along the lines of Cactus Jack is broken in half and stuff like that. But you're right. JR is so good at adding that extra level of emotion to a match with his commentary. There's very few that can do that to the level that JR does. And yeah, it's hard to overstate just how important JR is to these matches.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Jack is a bloody mess now. He's bleeding out of his head, his arm, and all sorts. He attempts then, bear in mind, he's got up from this horrific fall, which has stunned everyone in itself, and he's trying to throw chairs up to the top of the cage. Can't quite manage that. Climbs up himself anyway. And I love this because it's not the Hell in the Cell that we see now. I mean, I'm not even referring to the big red structure that we get now. It was still the silver, grey, whatever it may well be. But it looked more reinforced and people on top of the cage, like the Shane McMahon drop, for example, as incredible as that was, the cage looked very well put together, very well structured. They had extra stanchions in place. Here, we're seeing Triple H and Cactus Jack walk around the cage, and it's sagging where they're standing. And there's a moment where there's a camera angle from underneath and looking up at the roof, and Triple H takes a bump in the middle of one of the sort of fencing sections, and it sags as he hits it, and he almost bounces back up onto his feet. But that was such a great camera angle as well, Mags.
Yeah, and the worry is when the corner of the roof starts coming away, and the two guys are still wrestling, and Triple H's leg is going through the cage, and this is not like a part of the cage that was over the ring. This was over the post and over the floor out at the side of the ring. So very worrying. If you're in if you're watching this at the time live, there must have been a massive feeling that this is going to go wrong very, very quickly, because that roof was just collapsing around him, which makes the spots that they did on there that much more impressive, I suppose.
Yeah, it does indeed. But I suppose with regards to Cactus Jack, Mick Foley, Mankind, whatever, and the stuff that's already happened in these early Hell in the Cell matches, the big bumps and falling through the cage and so on, and barbed wire's been used, they must have been thinking, how can we take this to the next level and do something that people haven't seen before? So they set shit on fire.
They do. Well, we do see Triple H get whacked in the nuts with the Barbie as well, though.
Yeah.
Triple H getting whacked in the nuts is always a fun time. But yeah, then Mick decides to go old Japanese King of the Deathmatch style and just burn everything. and the visual, the camera panning out to Mick Foley holding the barbed wire 2x4 in the air, and it's on fire. It's such a good shot, and the crowd are absolutely on their feet for it.
Yeah, it's great. We also get the tease of a pile driver, then, don't we, Magsy? Onto the fire, which again gets the crowd. They go hysterical for this because this is insane. This is WWF television. We barely see fire. It's quite dramatic. But then that leads to so often we see pile drivers teased in various scenarios, and we get the backdrop counter to it, and everyone just sort of goes, "Oh, all right then." But here, the backdrop counter leads to potentially the most memorable moment of this match, Mags.
And the most scary looking for me, because so the backdrop is over like a support structure for the cage, and when Triple H does the backdrop, Mick's head very nearly collides with this support structure, and then his body hits the segment of the cell roof. One side of it is obviously been gimmicked to fall apart. Mick then falls through that, but his head then almost hits the section of the roof that is it's come apart from, and he's got fractions of a second to get his body in position to take this bump as safely as possible with his arms. So he's looking down at the rapidly approaching floor of the ring, has to kind of like adjust a little bit so he doesn't break his neck, and then hits the ring with so much force that he crumples a section of the ring, and it looks like we've witnessed the death of Mick Foley. It's so brutal. I mean, this is a guy who we've seen get chokeslammed and land in the middle of the ring and be like a crumple of broken bones, but this is him being backdropped through the ring. It's just brutal, and it's just iconic. Something that's tried to be replicated multiple times in wrestling. I mean, I think Jericho did it pretty recently at Blood and Guts, and you could tell that was really gimmicked because of the cardboard, the cardboard floor covering and stuff like that. But this wasn't no cardboard floor covering. This was Mick Foley just destroying a part of the ring, and it just led there like a dead body. It's brutal.
Yeah, I think Triple H here. I mean, Foley as well, with little things he does, but I think Triple H here is fantastic. I mean, the whole scenario is great because we're just in this dramatic moment, and Triple H takes his time to climb down. Which I think
he climbs down the section of the roof that's fallen through as well, which that wouldn't be the section that I'd climb down. Clearly not safe enough to support. Mick's not going to support Triple H's weight, surely.
Yeah. But it's the pace of him climbing down, I think, really adds to the drama as well, Mags.
Yeah, and the one thing that adds to the drama the most for me is this is an era of Triple H where he's an evil, heartless, cerebral asshole, but he's showing concern. He's worried that he's gone too far, that he may have killed a man. And when he gets to the ring, it's almost like he doesn't know what to do. He's pointing at Mick, he's talking to Earl, like, is this guy dead? And then he sees Foley lift his arm up, and the shock on his face, Triple H sells it beautifully. That how is this guy still able to move? How is he still able to breathe? How is he not 6 foot under off this? Then he goes and pedigrees him and wins the match.
With Foley, when he's in this kind of hole in the ring, so to speak, he's in this broken part of the ring. The crowd start chanting for him, and they're chanting Foley, 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 and it gets louder and louder. And there's a little touch here by Mick Foley that I wouldn't have noticed if I hadn't watched an interview or listened to an interview with Kane about a year ago, talking about a match he had with The Undertaker and about how when the crowd goes up to a certain level, don't respond, wait for them to come back down again. And The Undertaker was teaching Kane this certain, I suppose, trick of the trade, I guess. And the crowd are chanting for Foley and they get really loud. And then it's when they die down, that's when Foley starts moving his hand to bring them back up again. And it's such a small little thing, but it's just a master at his craft here.
Yeah.
Displaying how great they are at controlling that scenario.
Yeah, it's an art of having the crowd in the palm of your hands and knowing just how to manipulate the feeling of the crowd to get the reaction you want. And Mick, yeah, you're right. It played it perfectly. He just let the crowd get to the point where they'd kind of processed and acknowledged what had happened, and the feeling was dying down, and then the raise of the arm, and then the crowd are back again. And JR says it perfectly on commentary. I think he says something like, "This crazy son of a bitch is still moving," which it's right. This would have killed a normal man, and yet Mick Foley is still able to continue having a wrestling match. It's just the guy is a lunatic.
Yeah, it's very good. It's very good. But as you said, Magsy, the pedigree, after all these crazy bumps, these crazy moments, chair shots, getting hit by the steps, going through a table, going through the cage, going through the ring itself, the pedigree is one step too much after all that brutality, and Triple H does win the match. So in theory, that's the end of Mick Foley's career. Or is it? But there we go.
But normally this is like where our kind of review of a match would come to an end. But the sight of Mick Foley being cheered, blood all over his face, sweat dripping off his body, his claws in absolute tatters because of the barbed wire, and I don't think there's anybody who can look back at a crowd and look back at the camera and the people watching on TV on the way out of a company or in their last match and not draw emotion, because when he looks back, you feel so much emotion that this guy has given his body to this entertainment, and it's all over for him. It just, I mean, I know what happens. This is wrestling almost 25 years old, but I still felt emotional because this was the end of Mick and his career in the WWF. It just felt so sad.
Yeah, very much so, mate. Very much so. I suppose then, out of 10, Magsy, where do we go?
I mean, we gave other Hell in a Cell matches a 10. I think that it could be argued that this is the best Hell in a Cell match ever. So I can't not give this a 10.
I totally agree, mate. I totally agree. I gave the previous one a 10. King of the Ring 98's effort a 10. I think this is better. I think there's more going on here. I think from bell to bell, it's a better match. I mean, everything looks great. The commentary is perfect. The camera angles that you spoke about are perfect. Everything about it, right from top to bottom, is superb. So yeah, I'm putting the trigger as well, my friend. To me, it's 10 out of 10.
I agree.
Excellent stuff. So then, Max, where do you want to go next week, mate?
So I think I may have telegraphed my pick earlier in the episode, but I'm doing a Vince Russo style swerve. I don't want to go to WrestleMania 2000 for the main event, even though we have watched this whole story unfold. I want to stick around with some Hell in a Cells.
Okay.
So this is for me. I think it's arguably the best one, but there is another one that runs it very, very close. A few years down the line, 2005, Vengeance. Triple H again involved, but this time he's taking on the Animal Batista. So I want to go to Vengeance 2005 for Batista versus Triple H, which is the culmination of their rivalry that spread over WrestleMania 21, I think, and Backlash of the World Heavyweight title. So yeah, that's where I want to go. Vengeance 2005, Batista versus Triple H, Hell in a Cell.
Nice. Very nice, mate. Very nice. That is that's a barnstormer as well, isn't it? It's a great match. It's a great match. We're being very Triple H heavy these last few weeks, haven't we?
Yeah, and Hell in a Cell heavy.
Yeah. Not a bad thing, mate, because they all tend to be quite good. Well, from memory, there must be some stuff. We should try and find a shit one and watch that.
We could. Let's not.
Okay. I am going to use the venue again as my link because I love doing that. I like looking at the history of what else has been there, and there hasn't actually been many massive pay-per-views at this event. Sorry, at this venue. It's the Hartford Civic Centre. There's been a couple of Survivor Series. The Undertaker made his debut there, Survivor Series 1990.
I think it's if I remember, it's one of the kind of old school wrestling venues for the WWF, where a lot of the earlier like TV shows were from there.
Yeah, and it's not the biggest. It's not the biggest arena available to them either. So when they're running the likes of a WrestleMania or whatever, especially as the company, its popularity goes up and down, the bigger WrestleManias, they ain't going to go here because it's less than 15,000, I think, when they cap it for wrestling. But one WrestleMania that was held there is one from an era that when they weren't doing so well, but there was a title match that I have real fond memories of from when I was a kid that I don't think I've seen in quite a while. So using the venue, I would like to go back to WrestleMania 11 and to see Kevin Nash in his guise as Diesel wrestle Shawn Michaels for the world title.
Okay.
And we have a very, very motivated Shawn Michaels. And also, and this is a big rarity, a very motivated Kevin Nash, because they didn't close the show. We had Bam Bam Bigelow wrestling some bloody football player. And Shawn Michaels and Kevin Nash were apparently fuming and went out there and tried to pull out all the stops to basically prove a point, I guess, that they should be headlining the biggest pay-per-view of the year. And I got fond memories of it, but I don't know why. So I think that could be quite intriguing.
It's not a match I have watched in a long, long time. So it'll be interesting.
It gets good reviews online. So it's going to be interesting going back and checking it out.
Yeah,
but a motivated Shawn Michaels to me is the best to ever do it. So I'm more than happy to check that out. But those are your choices for next week's poll. We have a Hell in a Cell contest between Triple H and Batista from Vengeance 2005, or we have the match for the WWF World title from WrestleMania 11, Shawn Michaels versus Diesel, or Kevin Nash, as most people probably now know him as. Yeah, there we go then. Magsy, should we quickly dive through the chat before we depart? Because we could still actually get to bed before midnight.
We could. First of all, Sharon said she's going to go and make a cuppa with a bubbly whisper gold out the fridge and enjoy. Well, definitely don't choke on the bubbles, Sharon. Scottish Daddy says Big Show did look better with short hair. Yeah, absolutely agree. Then Cam says, does Big Show heel face mid-turn during this match? He does. Multiple times.
Brilliant.
In 9 minutes, I think he heel turned about 3 or 4 times. King's Pigs Bladder has put Barry Dunn. Check out Mags Dunn. Oh, you arseholes. So you're going to have me as a working retail. That looks like security footage of when I did work at a petrol station.
Honestly, Pigs Bladders, such a talented guy. Follow him on Twitter.
Way too much time on his hands. And then he also says that Jim Ross adds gravitas to this match. Absolutely he does. And Cam Griffin, ending the chat with Gilbert.
Is that a shape for a Gilbert match? You want us to look at Gilbert in the future?
I mean, has he done a match that's gone more than 3 or 4 minutes?
Hey, be a shorter show.
Well, would it though? Because we very, very rarely talk much about the wrestling.
This is true, mate. This is true. So there we go. Magsy, whereabouts can people find you?
So, as Sa told you earlier, you can direct all your hate to this down here, and I will never ever read it. So check it out at Podfather Mags or on TikTok at Mags or Pods. I won't read it there either. So direct all your hate to at SJP World Media for me. More chance of it getting read. At that. So yeah, that's where you can pretend to find me, but I won't really be there.
There we go. You can find the network at SJP World Media on Facebook and Twitter. There's a Facebook page, a Facebook group. Chuck it all a follow. Follow us on Twitter as well. You get links to all the shows that are involved on the network, covering so much great stuff. There's too much now to even list. TV, movies, wrestling, modern day wrestling, historical wrestling.
There's something for everybody. There really is.
There is so many great shows with great hosts. I'm so lucky to be on the ones that I'm on with the brilliant hosts that we have. There's other shows that I'm not a part of. If you're sick of my voice, I imagine some people could be by now. Check those out as well. They're fantastic. Also, just so much great stuff there at SJP World Media. But most importantly, you can follow this show on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and that TikTok thingamy at chain_wrestling. That's at chain_wrestling for your non-wrestling topic and your poll and all that great stuff each week. Thank you so much to everybody who gave in responses to our non-wrestling topic, voted in the poll this week, ever retweeted anything. Everyone in the chat, it's been an absolute blast again. Maxie, they never let us down, do they?
Every week they better themselves as well, which is just phenomenal. I may be a cantankerous old goat a lot of the times, but the CWF are amazing. I absolutely adore every single one of you. You are all superstars in my eyes.
Yeah, I totally agree. However, I'm kind of done. I've watched enough wrestling now, Magsy. So I'm off now to watch the March 8th, 1999 Monday Nitro. I'll speak to you next week, my friend.
And I'm off to burn some Brussels sprouts in an air fryer. Bye-bye.